Okay, had a little technical snafu, but we're online. Guys, want to welcome you to the March 2024 monthly board roundtable for the Delta Amateur Radio Club's Board of Directors. Thank you for being here. Just going to go through the list. We've got Joe Lowenthal, WA4OVO, Vice Training Director, Vice President Joe Plunk, NS4E, Matt Ryan, Public Information Officer, W2MJR, Mr. Treasurer himself, Jim, KD4FUU. John Reiners, Director of Master. We're going to call you Master of Ceremonies because it sounds way cooler. KN4BVH. We got Scott, Special Events, and that's KM4PMU. I don't know why I always forget your call. Sorry. And Perry, Mr. Secretary, N4GJ. We do have a guest, Steve, KK4VPT. Everybody that I'm showing in my list at the moment. All right, let's get her kicked off. These are in the slide deck for review, and just obviously that was kind of a lifesaver there. That Zoom link should always be good. We've got kind of the format here. I wanted to point that out for Mike since he's new, but I think he'll pick that up later, and I'll talk to him about that. Obviously, the main thing there is like coming with significant accomplishments or work in progress, or works in progress, I should say. Anything that your area is doing, and just let us know. Obviously, we want to come prepared as possible. We'll try to keep each of the turns to a minimum and just kind of get through the stuff and then discuss what we need to. If you have a committee, which I do strongly recommend that each area have a committee, you're going to be responsible for, reporting any of these things that apply to them back to your team or committee. All right, the lineup. I just got us kicked off, and I would like to, I'll say something on the end, but I'd like to go over to Mr. Joe Plonk, Vice President, NS4E. Thanks for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ty. So just real quick, the February signal report, we had 17 out of approximately 60 people responded. The results are on the side of the slide there if you want to look at those. Again, the results were favorable for the programs, favorable that members were satisfied with the event, favorable that it was relevant to our hobby, and then each of the sub events has a poll down at the bottom where they responded either very favorably or very relevant or relevant as appropriate for each one of the events. For the March signal report, we'll basically have the opening event and only the single program item that John will speak to. So those will be the only two items on the signal report for March. If there's any other, we usually try to keep the signal report to 3 or 4 questions tops. If the board has anything that they'd like to see added as a possibility for the March signal report, please let me know, or we can talk about it real quick and excuse me, and we can add that to the signal report if we wanted to ask a very straightforward multi-choice question to the members that are there. We could certainly do that in the signal report. We'll have the space since we have one program slot. I do want to take a moment in accomplishments and call a very special thank you out to Joe Lowenthal, WA4OVO, for providing all of the past training rosters back for a good 5 years. I'm still working on kind of data mining that and trying to put some trends to that and impact to that, trying to just gather all that and put some stickiness to that. But if Joe hadn't had him, I wouldn't be able to do that. So again, a very special call out and thank you to Joe for that. Continuing to track and watch renewal numbers. They seem to be going fairly well for 2024. And February, according to the numbers that I was tracking, we've got 53 of 108 renewals tracked. Excuse me again. We had 3 new memberships that are net new, bringing our total net new membership for 2024 up to 6, which is good news. And other than that, I don't have anything else. After a regular business, if we want to circle up and anyone that's interested, I can do a kind of a guided tour of Ham Club online, which is something that we are wanting to try to get the club to entertain. It has online attendance and rosters and sends out the news bulletin, and it's all email enabled, and it has a PayPal integration already. I mean, it's got a lot of fun, good features that we'd like to leverage, and we're working on getting that to a point where we can activate that for the club.
Yeah.
So if
I
anyone's
might be
interested, let me
interested
know.
in
We
that.
can certainly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was wrapping up. I was going to say I don't want to take the time during reports to go over that, but after we've kind of done reports, and if anyone's interested, we'll walk through it. Those that aren't interested could certainly drop off and tend to other things. Ty, that's all I got, unless anyone has any questions or needs any concerns or questions addressed. I do want to say in one other thing, I apologize, I didn't put this in the slide. I am going to take a moment and based on some feedback I received, kind of take an update and clarify a little bit to the blurb that I published in Sparks about membership trend. I want to clarify that a little bit. The 2024 number was incomplete, and it really needed to have really been pulled instead of shown. So I'm going to clarify that for the membership just so that they understand what really was happening, so that membership trend line is a little better understood. That's all I got. Thanks,
All right.
Ty.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any questions for Joe?
Yeah, it just depends on how late the meeting goes and whether I get called for work, but Ham Radio Club Online has been something that I've been looking at for Aries as well. My only concern is the donation, which isn't excessive for Delta Club, but for Aries, where we really have no budget, it would be. But
So the to that point, the donation is a donation. It is not a requirement for use. They would love to see you make a donation, but they make the platform available with or without a donation.
right.
So John, for Aries, if you wanted to use it for Aries and not make a donation and not feel bad, he would be okay with that. He
Right.
prefers a donation, of course, but he does not make his use of the platform contingent upon a donation.
Yeah.
It is
It's just, I
completely open to the
believe,
public.
yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
totally understand that. You could make a small donation and that would
Sure.
be acceptable as well.
Yeah, just take up a buck from
But yeah,
everybody.
it's something if time permits, I'd like to see that. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Joe? Okay, thank you. Mr. Jim Martin, KD4FUU with the Treasury Report.
Yes. All right. Thanks, guys. Let me go through what my items here that I've added to my slide, and then I can jump into treasurer's report and budget and so forth. So I will present the treasurer's report, which I sent out a few days ago, and also we will. I'm seeking input from the board for our proposed 2024 club budget. I've alluded to the fact that I need some information at both the January and February board meetings. So I'm hoping that maybe we can hammer that out and solidify some of the numbers and make whatever changes we deem necessary there. Massage it, I guess. I do need some clarification on the email that you sent out, Ty. Some of the items to that, just so that I understand what the intent is and what the recommendation is for formation of a financial committee. Need to establish an online document repository. I'm hoping that we can do something within the Google G Suite so that we can archive and keep documents that pertain to the club available so that everybody within the board can review those. And then I was hoping that you might be able to take care of setting up the permissions for that so that we can ensure that things don't go missing or get overwritten accidentally, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I will ask Joe Plunk to help me with that. Joe, would you mind help? Just we can work on that off. We can take that offline and set that up and present it to Jim when we can.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
They're pretty familiar with the Google Workspace.
okay,
Awesome
cool.
sauce. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because I didn't know if I even had the ability to set that up or not. Because I don't know if the permissions allow me to do that. Anyway, I did.
No, that's exactly what we got this for. We
Yeah.
definitely want all of our board members putting things into the Google Drive. My primary way of doing it is mostly just by doing these kind of slide decks and documents and spreadsheets and stuff like that. But that's just me because of what I'm working on. But certainly for you, I would expect that any of your spreadsheets that you have, you'd really want to get those into Google Docs.
Yep.
That way, hey, you got a committee, or maybe it's just the working with the officers of the club, right? So that'd be president, vice president, secretary, treasurer are working on something and checking it over. And that's probably the appropriate thing to do. I would want to double check and see kind of what the standard is there typically. But usually you want your club officers to have that access in case, I'm out or Joe's out or something like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it would be good to move towards a paperless environment where, I mean, I've been keeping PDFs of certain documents, but I've also been printing stuff out and filing them into individual folders, for various for months. And anyway, whoever whoever comes after me for the treasurer will inherit boxes of stuff, just like I inherited boxes of stuff. But there's no need to perpetuate the boxes of stuff. So that'd be good. And it makes it a lot easier just to find things in a hurry. Okay, so then I did file the IRS Form 990N, or the e-postcard for the 2023 tax year. So that's been completed. And then by April 1st, we need to file file with the state, and that will include who the various members of the board are, that type of thing. So there will be some changes that will be necessary, since you've taken over for Mary Jean and Joe has joined as vice president, and even other members. So you know that is on my to-do list. One of the items that you had brought up about establishing a savings account, and I am in full agreement with that we need to protect our assets that are currently in the checking. You don't need to have them all have that exposed to potential fraud. Then you also mentioned that you would like to see 2 signatures on all club checks written. That's not something that we've done in the past, but if that's that if everybody's in agreement and
yeah, so that was a request to make sure that we amend our business practices, and right, that's not for a fraud reason, it's just for accountability reason, right? So it's obvious that hey, you had to go get Joe Plonk to help sign that check, or you had to get me to sign the check with you. That's very standard. That is not anything that we're doing out of the ordinary. That is a very standard practice. Any kind of nonprofit does that kind of thing. And I've been the head of a nonprofit quite recently. So yeah, we had that policy in place, and it does protect you because people ask questions. It's like, nope, both of us signed on this. It's very straightforward.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So is that something that we have to, you talked about it, amendment, is that something that we need to formally
That
formally amend and get, the rest of the board to vote on?
best practice would be yes to do it that way. And it's not a change at the bank, by the way. It's just it's a procedural business change for us. It's a clerical thing. It's not really like a bylaws type of thing necessarily. We can amend that. But I just want to correct the behavior now so that we start doing it and then we can work on getting the bylaws, ironed out in the future. But that's just a matter of us getting different checks with dual signatures, and we can do that through the bank. And I'd probably, well, unless you know of a good place to get checks with dual signatures, I'd probably start at the bank and let them, if it's not crazy expensive, of course, just let them order it for us because then it comes right out of our account. No money needs to change hands and you just go pick them up at the bank.
Okay.
With dual signature. And we need to
So
also,
you couldn't just have.
Or they
two
mail them to the PO box.
sign. You can't just have two people sign the same line.
you can, it's just a procedural thing. There's nothing magic about the check itself. It's
Right.
just an internal check for us, right? So that if somebody, if Matt looked at the books and he was like, wait a second, this check only has one signature. Why? Like, then that's our check for ourselves to go, "Whoa, wait a second. Was there a breakdown? What happened?" Right?
Yeah. I was just asking because I had just ordered new checks at the end of last year. So of the 600 checks received, we still have like, 590 checks.
Okay.
I don't have the checkbook in front of me, so I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but
Yeah, I would just
maybe
say,
20 checks total.
okay. Well, then I wouldn't
I
say,
didn't want to waste it, and we've already
Yeah.
paid for them. That's why I was just asking if it required.
Right, we just need to, yeah, we just need to agree as a board that going forward, we're going to put two signatures on the checks. And I think that, we can also check with the bank and see what they want to do in terms of, do they need, can we put the vice president on there as well?
Okay, well, that would most certainly require,
A visit.
an additional signature card.
Well, they didn't give me a signature card. They said they don't
Well-
give signature
Well,
cards at
okay.
regions.
I mean, they did take your ID and added
Right.
you as a signer on
Yeah,
the
they request,
documents.
they require actually a social security card and a driver's license.
Well, they did for you.
Well, that's it. They said that that's their policy.
Okay. All right. So do we need to
Okay, do I
Do-
hear a
do we
motion
need
to
a pers-
vote for the addition, the amendment rather of our business practices? With a later date, we will amend the bylaws if need be. But just to amend immediately, our business practice to require the signatures of two officers for any kind of check.
I
Going
make a
forward.
motion that we require two signatures on checks until this can be reviewed and amended in the bylaws.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do I hear a second?
you know what? I'm sorry, John. Can you repeat that? If you were
I
kind of
make a
off the top one.
motion that we require two signatures on checks and until this can be amended to amended by the bylaws to require the same thing.
Okay, can I get a second on that one?
Do you really need the last phrase? Just two signatures on the checks, and then when the bylaws get changed?
Fair enough.
I would want to possibly see this proposed as one signature, a signature from the treasurer plus an additional signature. I think the treasurer should be listed, or should always have a signature on the check.
Great point.
Yeah, the design is not to stop you from doing business or conducting things, but it's meant to allow two signatures on a check, right? It's not meant to circumvent the treasurer in any way. It's meant to allow two officers to sign.
Right, so
Good point. I withdraw my motion.
Yeah, I have the checkbook in my possession, and then I would just need to get Ty or Joe to add the second signature as approved.
Which, you could probably do that pretty
So-
easy at the club meetings.
Correct.
So John, you've withdrawn it. You want to rephrase it and represent?
Being that I've got it wrong twice, I'll go ahead and let somebody else rephrase and either second or vote
No,
on it.
you had it
think it was good.
basically correct. I was good with it.
All right. Well, I make a motion that 2 signatures are required on all checks, and one of those signatures has to be the treasurer.
Can I get a second on that?
Second,
Okay,
Oh.
Joe seconded. Joe WA4OVO. All right, let's do a vote. Anybody that agrees with this, let's hear an aye.
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 Okay, are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that passes. Thank you.
All right.
Good
Thanks,
job, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent. All right, what else we got in here?
We've got our immediate suspension of non-essential business transactions at your
Yeah.
request. So some of the items are like the club sales.
Yeah, so that's okay. So that's just to protect us because I got information and then I actually checked it out with an attorney to ask, like, well, is that, and that was repeated to me that, yeah, you got to be careful on how you do that. So, and I think I talked about this, with maybe one or two of you guys, but I think that it's not about not doing estate sales. It's just about like, let's do it the right way. The ultimate goal here is I want to get everything to the point where we can now, hopefully we'll get some help, because there's new laws on the books that we are probably not aware of that have to be done that I've recently become aware of. There's regarding some of the sunshine laws, and those have changed as of like, I believe, a year ago. And we're going to need to kind of check into this, and I think we're going to end up needing to get some professional help on just the CPA or tax advisor side. Not that you're doing anything wrong, Jim, but just from the simple standpoint of like, I'm not an expert on 501c3s. I know some things about them, but we just need to make.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there.
Yeah, because I don't want us to make any mistakes, because that can be bad, and it could cost us all the money in the bank if we are in violation of anything. And I just don't want to risk that.
If I could, I'm the one who originally brought the concern about the estate sales to Ty and Joe Plunk. I consulted with a friend of mine who's an attorney, and I was told the proper procedure, that there's nothing wrong with doing it, but that the proper procedure is to agree to a value, a reasonable fair market value with the estate, the responsible party of the estate. They get a
In writing.
receipt. They get a receipt in writing for the donation, which is then tax deductible, and then the club can turn around and sell that equipment for income for the club. So my understanding, as I brought it to Ty and Joe Plunk, is that the only issue that Delta has right now is with the acquisition. So that there shouldn't, what I was told is there shouldn't be any monetary exchange. The club shouldn't be buying it, but it should be a donation for a agreed upon value for which they then get a receipt that they can, the estate can use as a tax deduction.
Because we're a nonprofit, we can't buy. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's the way that you do it. It can't be a
'cause
transaction.
Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, they buy popcorn and cookies all the time.
Yeah, it's an accounting thing.
And even Goodwill buys stuff. But
Goodwill just gives you a tax receipt.
Goodwill, in some instances, I looked it up, does actually buy some things from time to time.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
Goodwill
part
has
of their normal
accounts.
practice, but they do that. But anyway, no big deal.
From what I understand, the linchpin is the fact that we're turning around and selling it for a gain. That's if it
But
needs to be
is-
investigated further, cool. I'm just that was just
All
what
right.
I was.
Well, it's my
Uh,
understanding, again, is that it's okay to turn a gain. I mean, the Girl Scouts don't sell at cost. They sell it because they are furthering their mission. The profits are used to go towards their mission, and that's really the key point here. If we sell something for a profit, we need to be able to prove that those sales went to furthering our mission. Now, my argument would be our whole budget goes towards our mission, but that's a different
Right.
argument for another time.
And
But that's really how I understand it.
And to follow on that, John, I think what I think would be a good thing for us as a club to do, as a club, I think we should probably approach either an attorney or an accountant or both, and get a a professional paid opinion, just as a club. Not spend a lot of money. I am for sure not proposing that tonight. But excuse me, I have a frog. But we just approach a professional in the industry that understands 501c3s, and that's really what they do, and say, okay, this is what we want to do. What is the best way to do it? Can you give us the best practices? And a reason that I say that we want to do that as a club and pay some sum of money for it is just to show that we've done our diligence and that we've got, and it's
Correct.
not pro bono or whatever. It's just hey, we reached out, we solicited, we got an opinion. Here was the rendered opinion. Here's how we changed and went forward. And that way we're not guessing. Because I'll be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
And
I
I am not
understand.
a lawyer or an accountant.
And I agree with that. I really do. And if you want to consult an attorney, I've got zero issue with that. It's just when I look at our budget, we are already at a $2,000 a year deficit.
Right.
Deficit as far as what we're projecting. The only reason that we were positive, or actually we weren't positive, we lost $296 last year. And the only reason for that was because estate sales exceeded what they were projected. We projected 1,500 in estate sales, and they brought in almost 6,000. And so, you know, that's almost 3 times what we bring in through dues.
So I've got a
And
reason
so,
for this. No,
Right.
it's a good point. It's a fair point. So where I'm going with this is probably going to help solve your concern. So the reason that I want to make sure that we're doing all these little nitpicky things, it's not to pick on Jim or anybody else on the board. Absolutely not. It's to make sure that we're covered, right? That we're doing everything we're supposed to do because, hey, we're a 501c3. Guess what? We can now go tell people, hey, if your company gives charitable at the end of the year on behalf of the employees, which a lot of them do, hey, consider Delta Club. And here's the information on the webpage. We need a page that lets people know they can donate to the Delta Club this way, whatever that way is, however we want to do the accounting. And our attorney slash, our professionals, attorney and our accountant will help us figure out exactly the right way to do that.
Yep.
Now,
And-
guess what else happens? Now we can go to FedEx and apply for grants. We can go to AutoZone and ask them, and we can come up with a slide deck of, hey, we're building this communication system, or hey, we're trying to revitalize the communications for National Weather Service or for Aries or any of those things that where we actually have a very, very strong stance with those groups, and we can get them to give us some money. And believe me, it's going to be a lot more than $10,000, right?
I understand it's going to need to be.
Yeah.
When I look at the budget, we're in sorry shape right now.
Well,
But,
that's why I agree
we-
with you. That's been my concern in the entire time. That's why I'm questioning the budget stuff. Is not because I don't like Jim or something like that. No, it's nothing personal. It's just me looking at the business, having been a small business owner, having been in business and looking at it going, oh, whoops.
And
Like-
John, don't misinterpret me bringing that concern up. We need the estate sales, absolutely, and I think they're a great thing for the club. It was just I was led to believe that we may have an issue with how we're making the acquisition as a purchase instead of an exchange for a tax deduction.
Well,
We
it's
should
not
definitely
always
continue.
that way. I mean, it's my understanding there's only been a couple of times where it may have been a purchase. I don't have
Okay.
intimate knowledge of that. But what I do know is that we depend on that. And I, like I said before, I would argue that every penny of that, I get we got to be able to prove it on paper, but every penny of our budget is towards our mission, which is promoting ham radio.
Yeah,
Whether
100%.
it's a bus trip or anything else, every line item in our budget goes to that effect. And I have no problem getting a professional opinion, because I'm not an attorney. I could be interpreting it wrong, but that's just how I see it.
Okay. Anybody else want to posit something here? Just want to
I
make
think
sure.
I think that was a good discussion.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that I'm a little freaked out that we're talking to lawyers and we're just now finding out about it. Have we talked to lawyers about anything else?
What's the concern exactly that you were talking to lawyers? I mean, that was something that Matt did on his own.
That literally was a conversation over lunch. I didn't seek her out. It was just something I brought up during lunch.
I just think we have to be unified on that. If we're going to reach out to lawyers, we need to talk about that and agree about that before just the individual member goes out and starts talking to a lawyer about club business.
I guess it depends on the situation.
Honestly, sorry, I thought you mentioned something about you speaking to a lawyer. Or you would consult an attorney or something like
Yes.
that
Yeah,
about-
I did ask. Yeah, I did ask about that because I want to find out, what's going on and figure out like, okay, here, this is ultimately what we need to have happen is we got to go back. And I think it makes sense to actually go and if you find a good accountant, you could probably find through them a good attorney and vice versa. It may make sense to ask an attorney. We need an attorney that understands 501c3s. And, I've got one in mind, but, we just need to talk to them and get a little bit better understanding over what kind of things would need to happen.
Okay. As a club incurred any kind of fees with having had such discussions?
So whatever consultation, yeah, we would have to agree to fees. I will have a fee for discussing the issue of Barry getting the documents back from Barry. I could not get him or reach him, and he declined the letter that was sent to him to be signed for. So yes, I'm going to have an expense on that.
Wait, am I understanding this correctly? You went to an attorney because Barry declined a FedEx letter?
We went to an attorney to seek what we need to do in that situation.
Okay.
And the attorney advised on some of the issues we're talking about here, but we have to obviously dig into that a little bit deeper, right? We're going to have to show them some stuff, and he'll probably recommend us, an accountant, but I think he's a good person to.
I mean, I've had conversations with Barry and he is perfectly agreeable. He doesn't want any Delta Club equipment or anything else. I mean,
Yeah,
we could do this. We could do this with imposing a lot less cost than going through an attorney.
Yeah, well,
kind of jumping pretty quickly because it didn't.
Yeah, he's only been gone, what, 12 days?
I received a reply from Barry, or I was copied on an email that you sent out, Ty, with Barry's response.
Yeah, he was declining my messages and just definitely refused the FedEx letter.
Well,
With the
you know,
signature.
I totally get that there was some hostility there.
Yeah, and
But
I just didn't want to.
in all seriousness, though, I mean, there's a lot of us that are Barry's friend, and you could have reached out to any of us, and we would have put a bug in his ear. Look, dude, you know, come on, you know, can I come out and get the stuff and relay it to Ty? You know,
I appreciate that.
I just feel
Going
like
forward,
there's
I
a
think.
much more peaceful way of
Yeah.
dealing with that than jumping to going to an attorney.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and that gets back to my point. I mean, so we've had individual members of the board now contacting attorneys and racking up debt, and this is the first we're hearing about it, and that really concerns me.
Mhm. It's not actually debt, but there was an expense. Yes.
I just
Right.
want to clarify.
Tomato, tomato.
I just want to clarify again as to Perry's concern. I had lunch with a friend who is an attorney. I did not have lunch for that purpose. I was literally just catching up with a friend. And one of the things she handles is in that realm. And I was just like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Like, I also talked about my mom's health. It was lunch with a friend. It's not, I didn't seek her out for it. I wasn't like, let's go have lunch for this. It was
No,
just
that's fine.
topic that came up at lunch.
But if club matters are being discussed with an attorney and the rest of the board doesn't know about it, I have a serious problem with that.
Well, I am
Well,
the
she's also a
president.
friend, so I was also confiding in a friend.
Yeah.
But you understand, as a board officer, you can't share club business with friend, whatever, in an attorney-client setting. And that really bothers me. You were going to say something, Ty? I'm sorry.
Why is that a problem? I'm just trying to understand what's the.
So our club reaching out and hiring an attorney, you don't think that that's something the board needs to know about and to discuss?
Yeah, we have to discuss every other expense.
We're just
Yeah,
talking about
that's
cutting
the
off all
most
these
pertinent.
expenses.
Right. So I think, the first thing I asked this attorney was, is this something that I can, ask you about? And in my role as the president / CEO of the company club,
CEO.
yes, according to
Okay.
the state of Tennessee.
Okay, I thought we.
I'm using the state of Tennessee definitions. You call it whatever you want, but he said that is something I'm allowed to do. So that's where I did that. And I need to understand too, like, what do we do? I feel like I haven't really gotten a lot of answers, and I felt like I've been asking for a while. It's March, and I don't really understand what has been filed for and not up until today. I see this, and so I'm very appreciative of that. So
that's the first filing.
yeah, but I've been asking about that on all of our meetings, and you can look in the recordings; they are there.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm not going to argue with you about that.
But listen, going forward, I get what Perry's saying. I'll be glad to bring that first here. I just want you to know that I am serious about taking care of business. I want to make sure to protect the club. I want to make sure that we're doing right with the money. I'm not saying that we're not. I just want to make sure, because I became aware for that meeting that there are new sunshine laws that we are probably not in compliance with. And that bothers me as somebody whose name and social security numbers on the bank account. I'm sure you do too, Jim.
So just to get
I didn't have any concerns until these matters were made a bigger concern by you and the other new members of the board.
Okay, but
this makes me a little nervous when you send a FedEx letter, spending, I'm assuming it's gonna end up being club expenses to send something by FedEx, and then to, just days later, you're incurring additional expenses with an attorney and not having talked to anybody on the board about this. Right? Well, I'm sorry, I don't know who you've spoken with, but it was not brought up at a general board meeting or even communicated via email that this was taking place. So it just seemed a little bit twitchy, like you're. I'm sorry.
I think everybody needs to improve their communication. I agree that everybody needs to improve their communication. I agree with what Jim's saying.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna
can I
make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion that no officer of this club contact any professional lawyer, CPA, etc., about club business, and incur any kind of expenses without bringing that to the board for a vote.
Well, instead of that, why don't we talk about what we should be doing and try to vote and approve instead of, either talking to our people and getting an attorney and getting an accountant. And by the way, the bylaws do allow me to get counsel. So that is already in there. There's a
So-
precedent for that. That's not unusual.
Yeah, I thought that council was
Just-
like representative of the entire club, though, not just you.
They are.
I didn't say anything about just
Okay.
representing me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can,
All right,
can I
that's
just,
allowed for.
Point of clarification, real quick.
Okay.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion? All right,
Yes.
no second.
Can you read the motion?
I will second that.
All right, so Perry, restate your motion and who seconded it, please?
My motion is that no officer of this club contact or hire a CPA, a lawyer, or any other professional on matters regarding club business or encumbering any fees without taking that to the board and getting approval ahead of time.
So that can't be just officers. It would have to be the entire board, I think.
What's the difference between an officer and a board member?
I'm glad that you asked. So the officers of the club are the ones that are responsible for the primary functioning of the business. And there are things that happen in the business outside of the club, such as filing the taxes and other things that are not really, the club meeting. It's all the other stuff.
Okay.
And they're responsible for that. So that's your president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. Those are your 4 people in this club. Everybody else is a board member. There is a difference.
Okay, great. Cool.
The state of Tennessee document that I sent during the last
Yeah.
meeting, it
Yeah.
does spell that out. It's pretty good. It can do a better job than I can. I am
Yeah,
not
I read through that.
a source on all that.
pretty
And there's
clear.
a newer version of it as well. Go ahead.
So Carrie, Perry, do you wish to revise that?
I don't. I think I was pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I was under the assumption that anybody that has a vote was considered somebody that needs to, have a say in club business.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we would have to ask
Yes,
on that,
I
but
will. I guess I will amend that then, and I'll just say the entire board.
yeah, because I don't really think that you could stop like any of your board members. They have an obligation legally if there's something out of whack or they need help. You actually have a it's called it's a you have to do due diligence. You also have a what's the duty of care, and you have a what's the other duty?
There's a fiduciary duty, there's duty of
Fiduciary.
care, there's several.
Yes, there's a fiduciary,
But-
you have a fiduciary duty which could make you do that, where you would have to seek legal counsel. So that's, I don't know. I get what you're trying to say. You just want to limit any expenses, and that makes perfect sense.
Can I just ask
I
Perry?
also don't want to hire lawyers to go after other board members and it be a secret to everybody.
It wasn't another board member. It was someone who resigned and did not want to give back the stuff.
Can I just ask Perry? I just want to understand, just from my understanding. So are you saying I did something wrong by bringing it up at lunch with a friend who is an attorney? Because if I did, I obviously don't want to make that mistake again. An unrelated lunch, like it was just something that came up.
Right, but you're talking to people about the club business.
Well, in that case, everybody who talks to their wife or their kid or their best friend is guilty of that.
Fair
I think
question.
Yeah,
there's a
but you have marital
differentiation around incurring
confidentiality stuff.
expenses,
Um,
just as a point, there is a motion on the floor.
think
Is there a
so.
proper second for the motion?
I
I
thought
second
I
it.
heard
Who's
I heard a
aye?
second. Who seconded?
Scott.
KM4 PMU.
All right. All right. So there's a
Okay,
motion
wait.
and a second. So now we
Okay,
can
you wanna
debate.
vote?
Now we can
Or you
talk
wanna
through and work
discuss?
through and debate and discuss, and then we can.
Okay.
Just want to get the points kind of in order.
I just think it's ridiculous to say that I did something wrong by merely asking a question to a friend during lunch. It was a 30-second exchange before we went on to how my sister's doing and photos of my niece.
Hey man,
Like-
I don't get the impression that anybody is accusing you of doing anything wrong. I think that there's a lot of shell shock here from more in the Barry McDonald situation than there is
I
direct.
don't know anything about that beyond
Right.
what I'm hearing here.
So
I thought
I
the
don't
way I
think-
heard it was Perry addressed me directly at one point, and if I did something improper, obviously I don't want to do something improper.
yeah, I understand. I don't think this is directed at you at all.
Okay, good.
But I would like to state that we also cannot have, like two standards for the president and another member of the board or an officer. Such as, inquiring about whether I've, had anybody look at our, financial records. And, ensuring that nothing was shared outside of this forum. Which has not taken place. So I had to clarify that, I did not have Paul Broom nor anyone else review any of the financial records.
Yeah, that was a
So-
separate issue. That was just a question from me in regards to understanding if some records had been audited or anything had been changed. That's what I was trying to understand. That was a different issue, I think.
Okay, well, it sounded like it was something that should not take place. There should be.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
saying that. I just
shouldn't-
want to know.
I shouldn't seek the advice of anyone other than, a certified CPA that is authorized to form an audit.
Yeah, no, so what I wrote in there and what came up in discussion was that it was viewed as a conflict of interest because Paul was on the board that he would have, which is budget, he would have been auditing. Right? And when you do an
Well-
audit, I mean, it's fine to get Paul's help and advice, right? But in terms of like, And-
That's what I was seeking.
and there's, and there's nothing,
I wasn't asking for him to do a formal audit.
okay, but go back and listen to the recording because it was motioned at the meeting when I went back to watch the recording.
Mhm.
It was motioned by, I believe by Joe Lowenthal, that he wanted to have Paul Broom conduct an audit for up to 2 years going back, and everybody voted for that. And that would normally be okay to ask somebody for advice, but not really to do an audit. Because to do an audit, you would need somebody from outside your organization to really do that. And by the way, I do support that idea because that's what's going to get us to being able to go to FedEx and AutoZone and stuff like that later down the road. That's the reason why we want to get clarity and transparency here, right? The focus is trying to get the big money for these projects I think that we're going to have. And to your point, guys, like I'm seeing the same thing with the minus deficit on the budget. And that's really the big picture. That's where we're concerned. Some of the other stuff is smaller points. And I'm happy to run that through you guys, you know, and we'll talk about all that stuff going forward here first. And, you know, I don't want to create any kind of, you know, animosity or anything, but I do sometimes we've got to deal with things in the present. And, you know, that's where I think it can be kind of a problem if we handcuff ourselves on all these things.
Yeah, talking to a lawyer about Barry, that's really something that we should have all talked about.
Okay.
I kind of agree.
Going forward, I can come back to you guys on that. I will pledge to you to do that. And I'm, you know, I will do that.
Is there any additional debate on the motion on the floor?
Do we need to set a limit on like who those folks are, so that we don't end up with our authorized voters or whoever needs to you know, be or improvement be sought from doesn't expand into committees or additional non-voting members or non-voting.
Well, that's the risk of doing it that way, right? Because when you start saying, you start getting a little legalistic, you have to define the terms and then you end up handcuffed and now you can't, kind of to Matt's point, I think he was trying to point out that like you end up not being able to talk to anybody about anything. And by the way, all of our meetings are public. All of our reports are public anyway. So I don't know that that really works, but I mean, I'm open to whatever you guys, you know, want to talk about.
No, I'm just saying
Well-
the limit who's able to have a say in the voting, you know, or who can vote on a particular matter.
Well, thankfully, our bylaws actually in section 4.1 spells that out pretty specifically. It says the officers of the board of directors shall be president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, immediate past president, director of programs, me, director of meetings and special events, director of publications, director of training, and current trustee of the WB4S Club Call, which would be Michael Lumen.
That's the board of directors, not the officers.
It says officers and board of directors.
Right, because
And
it's
one-
unclear. It was unfortunately, yeah, guys, I really didn't want to get into the weeds on that. I mean, we can if we need to, but just believe what I'm saying when I tell you that everybody is not an officer.
I think, and Perry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what he and everybody else is getting at is they don't want anybody doing it in their official capacity.
That's not correct.
Okay. I apologize, I misunderstood.
Yeah, my concern is that a member of the board talk to a lawyer about club business and encumbered fees without a word of that going to the board. That's my concern.
And I
Yeah.
could agree with that.
What does it say in the bylaws that the president can do?
I honestly, I don't think it says anything about incurring fees without.
It says that the
without-
president can
without-
do
without
normal,
speaking to the rest of the
normal-
board about it.
no, it says the president is the, is able to do the normal things that would be done in a business. So if you were in a business and you had somebody leave and it was on, not very happy and nice terms, you do your best to try and talk to the person, right? They don't respond. You try to get your keys back or whatever, which is essentially what I was trying to do, right? We didn't have keys to any of our repeaters. And so he wasn't able or willing. I did CC the board. The board was completely aware that I was trying to get that back. If there was a concern, I would have hoped that you guys could have picked up a phone and called him. I did not have a conversation, so okay, going forward, I can call you guys and talk to you. But I just didn't feel like it was much more than a clerical thing. And so that's why I went to the attorney and I asked him, hey, what can we do here? What do we need to do?
We didn't know about the FedEx envelope until that had already taken place. Only when he didn't accept it did you then copy the club on.
Yeah, because it's a normal mundane thing. It's a very
no, that doesn't seem like something normal to immediately request it. I would have sent an email first.
Oh well, I did try to send an email, and I didn't get anything back.
And we didn't get a copy of that email.
So
yes,
so
you did.
so we're not aware.
So-
No, we didn't get a copy of an email prior to you sending something by FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like you're playing a hardball with somebody who was asked to or essentially forced out or asked to resign.
No, he was asked because he wasn't cooperating and he was making it tough. We were just asking questions.
Are you cooperating and trying and not making things tough?
I think that I'm asking questions that a president CEO under state of Tennessee TCA is expected to do. Yes, I do believe that I'm doing that. And that means when there's something in question, I will bring it up. I'm sorry if that hurts you guys. It's not intended to be personal for any individual here. It's, as I stated before, I want to kind of go back. I became aware of some different laws that might impact us. I'm not an expert. So I'm going to have to rely on, on some
So who
experts
should we
to solve
appoint
this.
as legal counsel for the Delta Club? Do you have somebody in mind?
I want to talk to some people first before I make any kind of decision. But yeah, I'll come back to the board and talk to you about that.
Who did you consult with regarding Barry?
In this particular instance, it was Peter. I forget his name.
Peter who?
Let's see. I've got his card over here. Give me a sec. Peter Baskind.
Okay. Yeah, I know Pete. He's pretty cool.
Just to point out, the bylaws do actually call for a club council, which we don't have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And-
I have zero problem with that, but
Well, there's only one way to meet and talk to an attorney, which is to talk to an
in
attorney.
person. I understand.
Right. So you can't
So,
just.
We should know
was
about
there a
that.
letter
We should know
sent?
what's going on.
Okay. Was there a letter sent to Barry before this whole talk with the attorney?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you mind if we see a copy of that letter?
You've already got it because you were CC'd on it. And
Really?
yes,
I've not seen that.
yep, it was attached as a PDF
To what?
to the board of directors, the entire board.
When?
This would have been what, a week ago, whenever the last meeting was. It was like right
I've
after
yet
that.
to receive that. And like I said, I checked 3 email boxes.
Okay.
Program,
I send it out.
Really
I send it out to the
I think
group
okay.
group email.
I think with the fact that some people prefer to use their personal email address that they've been using for years, and then we suddenly have new email accounts, that may, we don't know exactly what is sent and to whom. And then they've also been changes to distribution lists that were created, like the board of director or BOD mailing list, to change the membership there. So I know people were added. I don't know if everybody was originally included in that.
We could double
I think
check.
communication,
Yeah,
I think
so
communication.
I think maybe a certain expectation should be set so that everybody knows where emails should go.
Right. So I'm sending out to all of the board emails because we have to keep our internal communications on file as required by the state of Tennessee for 3 years. So anything that we're doing that's club stuff, yeah, we need to keep that for 3 years. That's why I brought that up at the last meeting. Now, if something happened and we need to correct it, absolutely right. We need to correct it if somebody's not in the email list. You realize that that'd be a technical error and there's not, no one's being left out intentionally.
Hey, quick question. Did you get an email from Barry? Or did you send an email to Barry thanking him for turning over everything that you needed?
I did respond to him. And then he
Okay.
texted me back and said that he was having some problems with his email and he thought he didn't get it to me or something like that. And I just told him, okay. And he is being cooperative. So that is a good thing. Very thankful
Okay.
for that.
And
That's all I wanted.
at this point, is there anything else that needs to be done regarding Barry?
Okay, yeah, I was gonna kind of wait for the repeater thing, but yeah, he has to sign
Hang on.
over. Go ahead. Yes.
I just want to clean up the business that's on the floor. There's a motion on the floor and a proper
Right.
second. Are we going to vote on that or are we going to withdraw it?
I would prefer to vote.
Then I'll call previous question then. And end debate. Need a second, please.
So this is this is the motion to
This is the call the previous question.
have all voting members of the board vote on whether
Well,
seek outside counsel or
right. So
the count.
I'm invoking parliamentary procedure right quick just to end debate on this and get the motion voted on. So we can move on to other things. The parliamentary procedure that I'm asking for is it's called previous question. It ends debate. We immediately move to the vote of the motion that Perry has put on the floor. Just so that we get the debate kind of done and over with and we get that motion dealt with. It either gets voted up or down. That's all I'm trying to do is just be tidy with our motions. So what I've called is previous question. If we want to continue debating it, I need a second for that, and then we'll vote on whether we want to move to previous question. If no second on the previous question, we continue with the debate and we keep going on.
Second for previous question.
All right. So the previous question has been called. All in favor of calling previous question, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. So the previous question has been called. Previous question moves to a debate ends debate, moves to a vote on the motion that Perry has made regarding, and Perry, would you restate just quickly? So we've had a quite extensive debate. If you'd restate, please, I'd appreciate it.
Right. My motion is that before an officer or board member of the club contacts an attorney, CPA, or other professional regarding club business, that there be a vote on that by the voting members of the board before that occurs.
And Jackson goes,
I'll second that.
Oh, it's already been properly seconded. I just wanted to get the motion clarified. We've called previous question. Previous question's been called. The motion on the floor has been reread. At this time, it is time to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay.
All right, Ty, I apologize for shanghaiing the meeting for a minute. I wanted to
No,
call
no, it's
previous
okay.
question. I wanted to get the motion
Understood.
that was on the floor dealt with.
Understood.
We can move
Thank you
on
for
to
your
the
help.
next topic.
Yep. Thank you for your help. Appreciate that. Always glad to get some help. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other questions, Jim? Any other things here to deal with?
No, but I do need to present our treasurer's report.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and
And what about the budget?
That
about the
will
budget?
be next. So this is a long 10 minutes.
does it let you?
Sorry. Okay, so let me go ahead and see if I can host disabled participant screen sharing. So I need somebody to enable.
You should be able to click it. Try it again.
Okay, yep.
I don't know why that's a default there.
Understood. All right. So here is the treasurer's report that I sent out this past weekend. It's the usual checking statement from our Regions bank account, stating that we started the month of February with $20,476.29. We had $465 in deposits, $295.69 in checks, bringing us to an ending balance at the end of February of $20,645.60. So we outline what these items or these deposits and checks were for. So we took in $460 total in applications and donations. We had one new member, one new individual member for $20. We had 17 individual renewals in in total of $340. We had 2 family memberships or family renewals at $50, and we received 1 donation from Scott Fletcher for $50. Then we had no new club commissions, but we did have one second deposit or second presentation of a deposit to the bank from the ARRL commission that we received back in December. It was then returned, and I did call ARRL and spoke with Zoe, and she assured me that the check is good and I can represent it. So there's the $5 there. And I wrote 2 checks, one to Joe Lowenthal for reimbursement of the purchase of the 20 amp hour LiPo battery or lithium iron phosphate battery for our prize donation to Free Fest, as we normally do. And then I also reimbursed Scott Adams for the club refreshments he's purchased.
Just a quick question here, if I can, Jim.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I just want to kind of understand. So when you guys get, let's say, Joe or Scott buys something, I'm assuming when Scott's going to the store, he turns in the receipt. That's pretty straightforward.
Correct.
If we're buying something from like an outside vendor, are we getting like an invoice and then you're attaching that to the check? How does that part of it work?
Yeah, so Joe sent me an email with the invoice attached.
Okay.
And from that, I was able to the figure of $170, and because Joe used his personal credit card to pay for that,
Right.
I wrote him a check to reimburse him for that purchase. And so, yeah, I do have receipts for both Joe's purchase and for Scott's purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just curious how that worked on that end. Cool.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this $465 and the $295.69 like match up with the deposit and the checks listed either in the Regions Bank statement that I received. Then I did list our two certificates of deposit and how much interest has been earned, and then of course the amount that has not been, or that we've earned but hasn't been added to the account yet, to the final balance. So no changes there. That's the usual numbers that I present. So any questions about the treasurer's report?
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I would move to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
I guess never been a problem for her, but
Second,
that's a wild life, man.
All in favor? Or is there any discussion? Sorry. Any discussion? None? Okay. Everybody that's approves? Can you say aye?
aye.
Any,
Aye.
that sounded unanimous, but let's just make sure. Is there anybody who's opposed? I did not hear anything, so go ahead. It carries.
Okay.
Thanks.
No? All right, do we want to present the budget for discussion? Do we have time?
Yeah, we're at
The
8
budget
PM. Is
has to
everybody
be
good on time? 'Cause we
Voted
have
on by the next membership meeting, so I vote
Yeah.
that we go forward
Okay.
with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
we
need to
gotta
get
get
it
the,
squared
we gotta
away.
get the budget done, guys. So I mean,
Yeah.
we just,
Yep, go for it.
All right, I'm add this up. Here, stand by for a second. Not sure why it's not allowing me to share my Excel. Let me just, I guess, share out the screen. Here we go. No, I had to scroll down further. All right, so share it there. Okay, so this should look familiar. The first column we have what was proposed in 2023, what the board approved to move forward with. The second column has what we actually took in and spent. And then we have the 2024 proposed column that I am seeking some assistance with putting correct numbers here. Because I don't know what
Correct numbers where?
Under column I, the proposed here, because some changes have been made, you know, we're now talking about, you know, or you know, the suspension of estate sales and the club commissions, and you know, I don't know what else is not considered a essential business, you know, that's going to include a possible bus trip. You know, I need to understand where we're heading so that we can put accurate numbers in here.
Mhm.
So
can I suggest something here?
I'd like folks to you know, help me understand what we need to do here.
Can we get this into a G doc so that we can share this out and work off of the same document?
Absolutely. I mean, I did send this out to everybody, and it had it had both this worksheet and a second worksheet that had all of the actual figures from 2023 broken down by, you know, how much was spent each month on refreshments, how much we spent for, you know, other, you know, miscellaneous expenses, donations, and you know, all that kind of stuff. It was all listed there. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. My feedback here would be that if our actual number or or whatever is, if there's a trend that we would probably want to equal that, or maybe slightly put it a slightly higher, just so that we don't go over. You want your budget to be pretty close. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be pretty close. So like, I think my issue when we discussed this was, and this was from February, maybe January, was on the repeater costs, because you had 2 years in a row, and I don't know, can you scroll to that column or row? Because there was a repeater cost of, and I'm not seeing which cell it is. There you go. So yeah, there's $1,000, but the last 2 years have been $4,000 spends each year. And that was the thing that I had indicated. There was a column for another year previously, I think. And I said, well, that was kind of a trend. So I don't think $1,000 is anywhere near realistic. I know we had a little discussion on that, like maybe possibly creating a separate repeater fund. I wouldn't mind seeing a discussion about that. Doesn't have to happen necessarily right now before the budget process, because that's kind of a clerical thing, but it might be a good way to come back once we get the repeater guys to check out the stuff and come back with the state of the repeater system. It might be
Okay.
helpful.
So
Okay,
may I make
here's
a
my
quick
question.
suggestion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Okay, my question is that we spent $4,000 in repeater repairs, and in lieu of the letter we requested, or didn't request, but received last month, there are some issues with the current repeater. How much is it estimated that it's going to cost to correct those repairs?
We haven't gotten that yet.
So
The repeater
Can you
committee
give a
has to
ballpark?
go.
As
Not
let
yet.
me put my engineer's hat on and just answer that. There's no way of telling. I don't want to step on Mike Lumen's toes, but the 440 repeater is laying partly on its side, and the power amplifier is sitting in a pile of rat feces in standing water.
Okay.
That's actually verified.
All right.
yeah,
And,
absolutely. But-
there are going to be things that I don't even think we fully know everything that's wrong yet. So I wish, basically, unfortunately, my answer is we don't even know. We may have to replace an entire run of Heliacs at $15 a foot.
So let me ask you
it's
this,
literally
Matt.
impossible to tell.
Hang on. Is it your recommendation then, Matt? Because I think everybody on here would agree that you are the foremost expert on repeaters. Would you recommend us shutting that repeater down right now?
We
I
haven't
think
taken measurements yet.
I think it's safe for operation for the time being, but I would not be surprised if it fails. And to be honest, again, we can't make an evaluation until we actually take full measurements of exactly, and again, I don't want to step on Mike's toes here. But basically, I'm just trying to say we can't even make a determination until everything. We don't have a full SWR evaluation at the insertion points. We don't have full measurements on the cans. We don't have full evaluation of the wiring. We don't even know if the repeaters are putting out what they're supposed to be putting out. But what I will tell you for sure is I think $1,000 is wholly inadequate, and I think we're going to blow past that pretty quickly.
Okay, I understand that.
That's
But
good.
in your letter that you wrote, you specifically said under no circumstances should we have a fixed frequency device such as a repeater operating at an SWR greater than 1.8 on either function. And you go on to cite that you've received measurements in greater of 2.8 and 2.7.
We do have
So I'm just trying to understand here.
Yeah, in my opinion, it should not be operating like that. Yes, because we
Okay,
don't know.
thank you.
We're not. Yeah. Honestly, we should. If those measurements that we were given by individuals who were there at the time of the repairs are correct, which we need to verify, yeah, no, I wouldn't have it on the air.
So
I'd be very
so,
concerned about the
so-
long-term effects on the finals of the repeater.
and we should
And we do-
absolutely protect a club asset, right?
Absolutely, and we do have
Absolutely.
evidence that we do have potential evidence that there is an effect, because the worst degradation in signal on 8.2 is happening during the net when it is most active.
Absolutely, I couldn't
So
agree
as it's
more.
warming
So
up,
we
yeah.
should switch our nightly nets to the 443.700 then, like
Which
we
is
have
also
in the
having
past?
trouble.
Both of the repeaters are challenged,
Hey,
but anyway.
hey,
I
so-
Joe's
understand, but
got
which
his.
one's more challenged?
Hey, Phil,
I think we need to take
Um,
measurements first.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be diplomatic because I don't want to step on Mike Lumen's toes here at all.
So
He
are
is
you
trying-
saying that
but
you don't trust the measurements that you listed in your letter?
He's
Your
saying
letter
he
to
wants
the
to
Board of
verify them.
Concerns specifically said that you said you received screenshots of 2.1 and 2.7.
what I'm
So
saying
you
is
don't trust
that
those?
as an engineer, it's trust but verify. So
Okay,
if I'm going to
fair
go
enough.
on that, on the screenshots alone, that was for raising concern. And part of my raising concern was that we need to verify. No,
Okay.
I would not have the repeater on the air at anything that high. We do have signal degradation. We also have a problem with 443.7 where it's holding the carrier but dropping the audio of the transmission.
Right.
So no, I would not have A2 on the air until we were absolutely positive.
Okay.
That's my
Thank you.
answer. I'm trying to be diplomatic, but no, personally,
Well,
I
I am
wouldn't.
too. I'm just trying to understand everything. I'm a dummy when it comes to repeaters.
No, I don't think you are,
it's-
John. I think you're a brilliant guy, and that's why I respect you. I just
Thank you.
personally I'm personally uncomfortable with in the state they are if what we were given is correct.
For the long term. right?
Who did the
I would
measurements?
shut it down personally.
Who
but
did the
that's-
measurements?
My understanding is it was Barry, Rick Tillman, and some other individuals who were there at the time of the repair from the lightning strike.
That would have included K7 UEC, Wes Fay, who's also a repeater guy, who was helping. He's not a club member, but he was there helping. My understanding is he's the chief engineer of Bell South Mobility, so he's quite capable engineer.
Awesome.
Joe Plunk, I want to recognize you. You were having your hand up there for a while.
So I would just want to put something out there real quick, okay? I'm not trying to stop the debate. The debate's good, it's healthy. But what I am wanting to take care of and put as a point, just a pin out there for the rest of the boy. There are some points that we need to finish talking through. John, Joe, everybody's got good points. I want to bring us back to a very specific salient point of we have to, as a board, we have to bring forth to the membership a budget, a proposed budget. It is not a budget that is chiseled and set in concrete and burned into steel. It is a proposed budget that we as the board say, this is what we think we're going to have. If we find something that comes up, say a lightning strike or a bad SWR or whatever pops up, and we say, oh, you know what, membership, we got to amend the budget. We found out some stuff. We got to amend the budget. Here's the new updated amended budget, and here's why we amended it. Okay, that's the process that's built into how our club functions. What we need to do as a board right now is, for the sake of presenting out to our membership, we've got to get a proposed budget that we are comfortable with that is proposed. That it is a workable, that at a minimum is probably balanced and shows reasonable diligence for a budget. I'm not saying that this budget is going to be the final end all be all budget, but we need to get something that's on paper that looks reasonable, that is balanced. That's the one thing we probably want to make sure that we do. And then we've got to take that to the membership and say, this is our proposed budget. Are you okay with our proposed budget? We do, as a board, reserve the right to come back and amend it if we need to, but this is what we're going to propose to run the club.
Yep.
So with that being said, I'm not trying to stop this debate. This debate needs to happen. This debate needs to occur. This debate needs to go on. I just want us to, before we lose track and get way down into the debate that needs to happen, can we get to a point where we have agreed upon our proposed budget and we're comfortable with it, that we're comfortable saying, yep, this is what we want to give to the membership and present. We've published one in, I'm sorry?
I was going to say, okay, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. We published one in Sparks.
Right.
And if we're not comfortable with that one, then we need to make sure that if we're not comfortable with the one that we published, we iron that out tonight so that we can republish that in Sparks for March, so that we can then stand up in front of our membership and at the March membership meeting and say, okay, here's our proposed budget. Members, are you okay with it? We do reserve the right to amend it. So that's what I would ask us as a board to try to target real quick. Let's get get that worked out. And then let's talk about all these other things that need to be talked about. All right.
All right. What I would like to say to that, and that's exactly why I brought this up, by the way, is that if you have an SWR of 2.1 on one function, 2.7 on another function, and it is unacceptable under any circumstances, then you're looking at replacing the entire heliax. And at $15 a foot, which is what Matt just said, that's $13,500 for 900 feet. You can't just say 700 feet. You got to make the run into the shack. So you've got 13,500. You got to hire tower climbers, which are another 2,000, and that's going to put your total at about 15,500 in the budget. And we're already negative 2,000, so that's a negative 17,500 minimum in the budget.
Is that cost per foot of speed line? Does that include installation? I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, no. I'm saying that this is coming from our engineer, who is an expert on this material. I mean, when Matt talks, I listen because he's been an engineer for Motorola. He knows what he's talking about.
The part of the problem is we have a TDR that was done by and I'm not sure he wants his name mentioned. I'm sorry, but it has to come up by CZH, who was there at the time. And on the 700-foot run, there's an indication of a short at 232 feet.
So can you splice that? Can you
no
section out? No. So it's
not in best practices. No, because then you're introducing an additional point of failure.
I agree 100%.
And on top of that, there is a possibility that 232-foot issue is not the result of the club, but rather an issue with the WATN or WBTY, ATN or WBTY waveguide, because we know that the last time the climber was up there, his RF safety meter pegged to the point of his boots heating up.
Right, we saw that through Barry's video.
Yeah. So, and they're putting out 800 kilowatts, as I understand the license currently stands for WBTY. That's clearly, obviously, we're all hams, no joke. And so that could be the cause. You know, we could have arcing up there. What's the point in, in replacing it or even doing a splice, which I don't recommend at all. That's not best practices. You want that run fully intact, one piece, as much as possible. What's the point in fixing it if we're just going to get arced over into eating the jacket away, or arc the jacket away again? And this is why we have to do those evaluations. But that's what I'm saying, that I don't think $1,000 is even, I don't think it's even sane for fixing what's wrong in the doghouse.
Right.
So that's my only point, is
keep in mind that in the past, we have asked the membership to vote on a budget and we had no idea that there was an issue. Now we know that there is some sort of issue. So therefore we have to adjust this budget before we ask them to vote on it, or we're lying to them. So I make a motion that we increase the repeater adjustment, or the repeater system upgrades line to $15,500.
Hey, John, let me ask you too, to the best of your knowledge, was the Fusion repeater donated?
I have no idea on that. I think so. That was the old, it used to be at Bellevue.
No, it was purchased new by the club.
So
yeah,
I don't know if it's turned over to it.
But that's part of my point, though, is there's a lot of things that have either been miscommunicated or not.
Not intentionally, but just it happened.
Yeah, my understanding is that a check was located indicating that repeater was purchased brand new from DX Engineering.
Okay.
My understanding was originally it was donated.
Joe Lowenthal, do you have any additional insight to that? Because I'm not aware of that. I thought it was Bellevue, and then it was donated to us when they could no longer maintain it. But I could be.
Bellevue was a Motorola repeater, and they put in a Fusion in place of it. But Matt, you said there was 6 inches. There was how much water on the 443-700?
I didn't say a number, just the photo I saw. The slab was wet, and there is obvious rat feces that the power amplifier is sitting on.
The repeater is up 8 or 10 inches off the ground. I don't.
The repeater is laying partially on its side in the rack. The power amplifier
about 6 inches up above the ground floor.
The power amplifier is sitting on the foundation in a pile of rat feces on wet foundation.
That's the old one.
Hey, fellas.
I don't know that. I only know what I've been shown. Please, trustee, by all means, please.
Mike, go ahead.
Hey, fellas. I have some, just pardon me for interrupting, but I do have some imagery that I'd like to share with the club to let you see. I did a site survey. I went and looked. I took some images. I'd like to share that in just a little bit, and so you can kind of see what we're seeing. I think a picture will help. These repeater sites are in an austere environment. They're in a secured area. It does take a hot minute to get in there. So I'm just wanting to make sure that everybody, if I show you, I think that'll it'll be turning a spotlight on things, and I think you'll understand. So
hey, we welcome this.
Yeah. I just want to share with you what I got when the time comes. And I think increasing the budget is very wise. In the event we don't use the money, I'm sure we can turn it around and give it back. So by all means, I'm no engineer. They won't even let me near a train. So I'm just going to tell y'all, Matt knows his stuff, but I'd like to, when the time comes, I'd like to show you what I have tonight, and then y'all can, we'll take a few questions afterwards. And back to you guys.
Mr. Lemon, that sounds awesome.
Thank you, Mike.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, so let's, do you
Again,
mind if we,
but John, my whole point is just that it's insufficient.
And
Absolutely,
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Yeah.
So,
we have
so quick question. Hey, may I ask a quick question? Hey, Joe, you mentioned that there is an abandoned power amplifier in play. When the pictures come up, would you be able to speak to which one is in service and which one's not?
One is the repeater and one is the old Motorola system
All right.
in that same
we'll-
cabinet.
we'll tackle that when we get to the slide.
All right. I just was curious.
Yeah, I think exactly what Mike said. When he gets to that, he's already prepared to talk through the slide, and if needed, we can talk further.
Why don't we go ahead and look at that, because that addresses the issue towards the budget.
Is everybody open to that? I think that's a great idea, Joe.
Yeah, so too.
Absolutely.
I think it's fantastic.
Okay. Hey, Mike, I know you don't use Zoom all the time, but are you
No,
able
I
to do that?
don't.
Or you want me to present?
No,
ready.
give me just a minute to get to where it's at, and then y'all are gonna have to help me just a hot minute there. So
Well, do you want me to just present it and you can tell me when to go forward in the slides and whatnot?
let's see here. Let me see if I can't. So I've got it pulled up here. It says slideshow, and then so I'm at slideshow now. So where
You got to screen share first.
I appreciate that, Joe. I'm trying to get there where I can find that. You have to remember that I'm still not that engineered guy. So
It's the green share screen button if you're on
yeah,
Windows.
let me go ahead and open Zoom meeting in the back again. All right, let's do share screen.
Got it.
And so let's well, I tell you what, can you go ahead and just kick it off for me, would you?
Yes, sir. Glad to do that. All right, I've got it loaded up.
Okay, so there we have, so first thing, and I would ask that you not interrupt me, well, since I'm doing this for the first time, and then I'll answer any questions or entertain any discussion afterwards. But my moral compass at this point compels me to say something about Barry McDonald. Barry McDonald kept the Delta Club on the air for years. Barry McDonald kept this system up and running. Okay. So I feel like we need to say that. We owe Barry McDonald a debt of gratitude.
Yep. Thank you, Barry.
So the club needs to say that. He needs to hear that. After going to this site, these repeaters, they don't have janitorial services. They don't often have site engineers there. They're in an austere environment, and if you go there and you get in trouble, you have to self-rescue. So it's, we need to thank him. So go down to the slide here for the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Okay, right. These are the folks that are on the repeater committee. Now I'm going to speak to something and try to do this in language that we all understand. Bandwidth. Everybody knows what bandwidth is. Now I've only been a ham for a year, okay, but I do calibrations for millimeter wave radar, side scan sonar, for blind spot monitor on cars. I'm not an engineer. I'm the antithesis of an engineer. Guys like Matt hate me because they bring me their baby, and I have to do the field test and evaluation, and then I have to tell them they have an ugly baby. So I shatter their dreams. They say all sorts of things about me, but that's what I do. But I try to do it in a way that people will understand where I'm at, and then in the end, they come out with a better product. It's Kaizen. It's continuous improvement. It's a Japanese term. So I'll try not to talk too much shop. So go down to slide 4 for me, would you, Ty? All right. So,
I love you, Mike.
well, thank you. A lot of you guys don't. I'll just say that. A lot of you guys don't. So we did a site inspection, so I will go back to this later. Go to slide 5 for me, please, sir. All right, so this is our W4 BBS repeater, the 443.700. So this is a full stack. And just a second here, I've got another computer up because I'm not real good at this. So go down one more slide. We're going to see the fusion repeater. So, all right, so she's laying on her side. So we have some cabinets and racks that things don't fit well in. You know, they don't fit well, you know, and to ask somebody to keep this up, and Barry did this job by himself. I haven't met Barry. I passed him at the club. You know, I hope me and Barry can be friends or at least acquaintances, and I can learn something from the gentleman. But so we've got this it's kind of wedged in there. So go down to my next slide, please, sir. All right. So this is the front and the back. Now, if you look at it, we have some opportunities here that we can get some additional functionality out of this fusion repeater. Okay, so we've got there's some extra stuff we can do. So go down to the next slide. Okay. So there is inside of here, if you, I don't mean to be pointing at y'all, but if you look, that is the power amp and it's on the floor. Now, I want to say this, power amp is making a little bit of noise, the fan is, and it seems to be slowing down. You know, so I'm looking at this. Now, the cabinet is such that this generates heat. So what do rodents naturally want to do? Those guys want to stay warm. You know, they're going to get in there and they're going to get in there where it's warm. Now you can see, looking at this slide, that the condition of the floor and the concrete, you know, that we've had some vermin hanging out in there, and it is on the floor. Now just above it is old Motorola equipment, and you know, I'd like to see that stuff gone myself. You know, that's just me. I'm just kind of I can't spell Motorola half the time. And I certainly can't spell the TDR stuff that Matt was talking about. But I think we ought to pull some of this stuff out. Now, this is also in a hallway, and it's not in our repeater room. So go down to the next slide, please.
Hey, time out.
Yes.
A shelf for a 2U shelf to get that up off the floor and out of the rat feces is like $20 on Amazon.
Yeah.
We not order one and put that in just to remediate it in the time being until we.
Yeah.
Well, let me say, was that John in there? Was that you, John?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm still learning this
interrupting.
stuff.
I'm
Still
sorry.
learning this stuff because most of my meetings were with the engineers, were at plants and in the factory, and it was a face-to-face thing. So, yes. Now, and I do have a recommendation at the very end where I'm going to recommend for 3 of those guys. And
Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, no. Look. I want this to be friendly, and I'll go ahead and say this now. I was going to say this at closing, but you know, Vertical Bridge owns this facility, and I want to use the word bridge to kind of bridge some things to the club. I want this to be an opportunity for everybody to connect and us to build a bridge amongst each other. So go down to the next slide for me. I think that one would be, let's see, 10. Okay, this is a battery power supply, battery on the floor
behind
So-
the cabinet. Yep.
Yeah, it's behind the cabinet. It's being fed. It doesn't have a controller that I could see, and I would like it in a better situation there. The cabinet does not have the back, you know, attached to it. So I'm thinking, Mike's thinking, you know, let's put the Lego set back together, you know, let's put all the pieces back on it and let's make it all you know, closed up and correct in my opinion. So this is the last of the 443-700. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be the 8.2. So this is our 8.2. The 8.2 is in another room, guys, or rather board members. And so if you can look the full stack over there at, right there. And so it's much neater. And now it's in another room. Now the back's not really on this guy either. That may not be an issue, but it's something. So let's go down to the next slide for me. Maybe that's 12. Okay. So this is our repeater. And we have some stuff there. There were some records there, and there's some unused parts and stuff. I looked at it and I'm thinking, well, generally when I have something, I have to have it, locked, strapped down, inserted in the correct position. So we've got some stuff laying around. Is that an issue? Well, my obsessive compulsive self says, yeah, maybe so, maybe so. Let's go down the
Proper
next.
cable management. That looks great, but not necessary.
Right.
I'm with you though, because I'm the same way with my networks.
Yeah. That's just me. I'm thinking, do I roll it up and just stick the wires in it? Yeah, okay, that's fine. So let's go down to the next slide. Okay. So there was a 12-volt power supply that was hot. I got some electrical tape, taped it up. It's good right now. So now you can see the cavity filters, I believe, down there. And so let's go down to this one is not near in the shape as the other. The other thing is this is in our own room, and rather than in the hallway. So it's better. So I want to go down to the next slide, which is 14. All right, so now we've got, this is the Heliax coming in, and then we got some LMR 400. So the repeater is across the room from where this feed input is. So we're coming in with this, if you think, well, I don't know, I tried explaining this to some folks, I'm trying to go over my head, and I'm thinking, well, if you look at electricity like water, we've got a big water pipe going to a little water pipe. We're going to have some loss there, So, and I did not see, now I don't know if it's out on the tower where this stuff would be, any polyphase lightning arresters or anything like that. Didn't see anything. I'm thinking, if we do get a direct strike, is that really going to help? Well, I don't know, but I think it'd probably be a good idea to have it in there anyway. It just makes me feel better. I've got them on my stuff here at my own house. Is that really going to protect my stuff? I don't know, but I would like to see it there. So, so the cabinet for the 8.2 is across the room. So you ran some LMR 400 to it, and I suspect a lot of this stuff had to be field expedient repairs done. If you by yourself and you don't have any help, or you're doing the best you can, that's what you do. Like I said, we owe Barry a debt of gratitude now. So I go down to my slide 15, please.
Couldn't agree more. Doing a great job.
Okay. So here we go. So this is my recommendation right now. And look, guys, board members, I'm open. I'm open. You're going to find that I'm pretty easy to work with unless you talk to my ex-wives, and then they'll tell you, I got 2 of those, and they're going to say bad things about me along with the engineers. But here we go. Just perform needed maintenance after testing of the equipment. Testing of the equipment, that's going to tell us on the roadmap where we are and what we need to do. So I say we do that. Replace or refit the cabinets and racks. And that right below that, I said, need 3 shelves. So if we get 3 shelves, there is some scrap and unused cable and equipment that it's lying around. Me being a neatnik, let's be good stewards of the space we're in.
Absolutely.
And then label the equipment room. When we went in there, it was kind of like a little fox hunt. There were keys, and we went and looked around, and it's pretty cool in there until you walk into some place and you kind of feel the RF energy. You can kind of feel it, and I'm kind of like, yeah, no, not cool. So I don't get my jollies with that. So and we've already got somebody to donate the labeling. Matt Ryan has already got us some labeling made up. Looking at that right here, a power strip, a PDU with remote shut-off capability. I would like that, you know. And then lastly, a question for the board here. We need a minimum of 4 hours downtime on this to do the testing, to do the preliminaries, and you know, and I'd like permission from y'all to do that. Now I've got a few notes, and if y'all will just bear with me a minute to make sure that I don't waste your time, because like I said, we've only got so much bandwidth. We don't want to be here all night. And the reason we have a committee is I can't do this by myself. I'm taking care of my mom. I'm still working. I'm still trying to be a good husband so I don't have another ex-wife. You know, I got all that stuff going on. So, and you know, I'm new to this, and my brother Joe is new to this too. We just asked that there was something we could do to help. So, so let's see. Let me see what else we got here. Testing is the big thing. That's what I want to do. I want to get the testing done, report back to y'all, and then so is the repeater working? Yeah, they had a net tonight. It's working. Is it at its optimal performance? No, it's not, and I think we can all agree to that. So we can either just mitigate what we've got and try to get by, or we can do a full comprehensive refit and repair. So with that, that's my humble suggestion, board. Thank you for taking the time to hear my brief, and I will now entertain what questions I can answer. And if I can't answer them, I'm going to punt them like a football to an engineer who's going to fix it for me.
Any
So
questions for Mike?
Okay, yeah, I got one immediately. Does this mean that you do not trust the measurements that were taken as reported by Matt Ryan's letter?
no, sir, it is a trust but verify thing again.
Okay.
You know, that's just me. So then here's the thing with measurements. You know, I use I've got a picoscope. It's a lab scope that works on a computer, and I also use Fluke equipment. So
Luke's great. I love it.
yeah, I like Fluke's good equipment. But when somebody tells me, they bring me something and say, "Oh, this is bad," and just as I didn't talk to anybody before I went to the site, is because I didn't want to be influenced.
Right.
Okay, somebody has given me test data, you know, or measurements. I want my own.
Okay.
I want my own measurements because, you know, I want, you know, I'm not from Missouri, but I just want to see. I want to see for myself. What
Right.
else?
Matt, how do you feel about this?
I fully agree with Mike. You know, well, I disagree with him about engineers because personally, I love the man. He's awesome. But we need to verify everything.
Okay.
We need to absolutely verify the SWR. We need to verify the power output. We need to verify that the cans are in fact on frequency. We need to verify that it's not a problem, that the problem may not be us, that it may be the TV station causing an issue. We
Right.
need to verify what antenna we have up top because nobody can answer that.
Okay.
I think we are terribly unprotected. As Mike noted, they found no polyphasers, no Morgans, nothing. And as far as I'm aware, the A2 repeater is grounded to a structural steel beam, which is coated. And we don't have proof that that beam is even grounded.
Right.
We may end up frying the repeater again. And I mean, it's the beginning of March. We're getting into that season. I mean, I was watching flashes out the window tonight, and I'm 8 miles as crow flies from the repeater, so I could see it get hit.
Right.
The tower get
So-
hit. I fully agree
I
with
guess
you.
my question for everybody on here would then be, was the premise of trust but verify in place with the former repeater trustee?
Hey, John, I
Yeah.
get where you're going with that. This is not this is not like a hearing or anything about that.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
not
we're
saying
just
it's a hearing.
we're just trying to
It's a
present.
legitimate question because you
Yeah.
guys are talking about retesting all this, but Matt sent this letter, and that was part of the basis for asking the former repeater trustee, not the entire basis, but part of the basis for him to be removed. And so I just
Well-
want to be sure that we're
but
giving this the same look.
To be clear, I had no preference for or against Barry. Part of my thing was to get Barry to say, hey, someone's bringing up a problem. Okay, let's take a look at it again. I think Barry did a great service. I wouldn't have gone to him at the meeting and talked to him and offered my help personally if I didn't think so.
Right. And I
I
respect your
just-
opinion, man. You're a god on repeaters.
I'm not a god. I
Anything.
am not a
All right.
god. There are plenty of people who know more than I do, but no, my point was that look, we've been given this stuff. They are of concern. Let's take a look at it. Regardless of who's in charge, these are things that we need to address.
Okay.
We also don't know, unfortunately, to what extent those measurements were taken. Was it just taken at the heliax? Was it taken through the jumper? Was it taken on the can side? Was it taken at the insertion point of the repeater, the jumper between the cans and the repeater? There's a full load of battery of tests that need to be performed, and that's as much so that we can save money and not do things that aren't necessary
Okay.
as it is to get things working.
So why was that not in your letter to the Delta Club? I mean, you specifically said under no circumstances should we have fixed repeater.
We shouldn't.
I mean, I've got it
We
right.
shouldn't, and if that is the case, we shouldn't. Personally, in my professional opinion, I would shut it down. But that's me because I have really high standards.
In that same paragraph, you're citing measurements that were sent to you via screenshot.
I was provided, yeah.
Here?
Hey.
Apparently, those were taken. My understanding is those were taken by Rick Tillman.
Okay.
And if they're correct, yeah, that was the basis for my concern. But listen, I'm sorry if I'm not the most eloquent person all the time. I'm an engineer. I design things. I make them work. Unfortunately, people, they keep making, better technicians to screw things up. But
so at the end of the day,
John.
my big issue with this is that depending on what those readings are, determines how much our budget is going to be. So
100%.
Yeah.
So
I think before we even talk about budget,
either it's a couple $1,000s because we got a minimal, actually it might not even be that if all we got to do is verify the measurements. On the other hand, it could be $15,500 if we got to replace the heliax. At what point, is there a timeline on when we're going to take these measurements?
This weekend, as far as I know. I mean, I offer
permission
this weekend.
It depends on everybody else's availability.
Okay, great.
sorry, I got to interject.
What was the date on the screenshots?
Guys, look, that's the most recent data that we had, and we sought to understand that. But here's the point of this, guys. It's not about Barry personally, okay? It's the fact that this information was out there and it didn't come to the board. It did not come to the membership that there was any concern at all. His report every month was nothing to report.
Okay,
and that's
I understand. I don't mean to interrupt, but I totally understand that.
Stunning.
The purposes of this conversation is what do we put in the column for expected repeater upgrades for this year so that we give
we'll
our
know
membership
after
an accurate description of what we're planning on spending.
Well, we'll know after the weekend.
It
has nothing to do with Barry. It has nothing to do with Barry.
Right. And then a follow-on question of that to John's question would be, do we put the worst case on the budget, or do we put the conservative case on the budget saying, hey, we may have to revise this. We don't have enough data to say what this could be. How do we flip? How do we present that budget? Because to John's point, full heliax replacements, $15,000, give or take a few dimes. But if the heliax is in good shape and we don't know, so do we put a budget to the membership that says, hey, based on what we know right now, this is what we think we need for a budget, and this is why we think we need it. But we do have to let you know that, hey, we may have to come back and amend the budget. And that's what we as this group of people that lead the membership have to come back to them, give them our wisdom about this, of how we want to accomplish that. That's my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion, and there's 10 other people in this that have an opinion as well.
From the PMP side of things, from the PMP side of things,
on the air.
from the PMP side of things, we should allot at least what was spent last year.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, you're kind of distant from your mic. You don't have very much presence. So
okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm speaking into my laptop, which is
there you go.
A foot from me. No, I've been trying to get the attention of the board because I'm concerned, should these repeaters be on the air? We know that the 440 machine sounds like crap.
On analog, it does.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Everybody was concerned. Like the instant that we started talking about getting involved in the club and stuff, we started asking questions, right? Like I talk to Rick Tillman all the time. I talked to him on 220, and I have sought out his advice and wisdom on a lot of stuff. I've reached out to some of you guys on different things too, right? So I asked him, and he gave some of those things over. I know that there's a lot of pictures, but I don't think that we just haven't done the best job at like sharing it and documenting it. And we know that that's a hard thing, and that's what part of the Google Docs thing was going to help us fix.
Yeah. So Luke, or circling back to my question, and I'm not stating this to, I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything. I'm concerned if the 440 machine should even be on the air in its current state. If it sounds so bad and there are issues with feed line or anything else, I think we should take it off the air so that, until it can be investigated, so we don't do damage to the current equipment.
It's A2 I'm more concerned about, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because but the other problem is there's no polyphaser on there. There's no lightning protection visible at the repeater end. There may be an inline up at the antenna, but can anybody verify any information about whether the repeater or the cans took damage in that lightning strike?
I had a motion on the floor about revising the amount for repeaters that we're going to spend on the budget. I'm not saying we don't talk about this more.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I want to remind everybody there is an active motion on the floor.
Yeah, but Joe suggested that we take a look at this and kind of skip the order. So that's what we did.
Okay,
that's why we're here.
Problem. No problem at all.
As to John's motion, from the PMP side of things, I would recommend that it be at least what we spent last year, because that would cover a climb to physically inspect the heliax.
At the least. Good point.
And that would definitely cover shelves and better jumpers, polyphasers. It would cover a climb to physically investigate the heliax on the tower, and it would also cover the basics in the doghouse so we can prevent ourselves from blowing everything up again.
Yeah,
and how much would that typically run, roughly?
Tower climb, probably you'd have to check back to what it was. Normally, I think it'd be in the $2,200 range. Heliax, there are jumpers, depending on if somebody has the cable and wants to donate, it could be as little as the cost of the connectors to $100. Polyphasers are anywhere from $60 to $100. So
So 3,500 roughly for
3,500
purposes
to
for
4,000,
purposes
yeah.
of yeah, for the purposes of informing our membership of what we plan to spend, it is said that we should spend roughly 3,500 instead of 1,500 or 1,000. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we need
So-
we need to at least get
I-
lightning protection on there, and we need to physically investigate the heliacs. We need in my opinion, we need a climber to see if that 232 feet is the result of that issue or that alleged reported issue by the last climb of the WATN or WBTY waveguide arcing or having a compromise in the brazing or whatever the issue is.
Right. Okay.
Let's flip. May I ask a question? May we flip over to Jim's sheet again, please? And I would ask John politely, just for just a second, for you to withdraw your motion for just a second.
Absolutely. I
Because
withdraw my motion.
What I'd like for us to do is kind of create. I'm not going to ask that we suspend the rules. That's the formal way of doing this. What I'd like for us to do is to informally say, okay, hey, we're going to talk about how we're going to work. We're going to number smith the budget numbers informally without a bunch of motions and stuff, and kind of number smith the numbers that are on Jim's sheet. Respecting the fact that John and Matt and everyone are saying, hey, we need to raise the numbers. Let's work through that and raise those numbers based on the information that we have. I would poll real quickly the board and say, do we want to present worst case, or do we want to present what we know right now, which is, hey, we don't know that we have to replace the heliac, so let's not present that. Let's present what we need, what we definitely know for sure. We need some shells, we need some polyphasers, we need some knickknacks and other odds and ends, and that's not going to be a full heliax replacement. So I would ask, just for my sake, let's poll the temperament of how the board, how we want to present to the membership that. Do we want to go all in and say, okay, let's do it all in and we're going to do 15.5 and we're going to go to the membership and say somewhere along the way we got to come up with this? Or do we want to back down somewhere and say, this is what we know right now? We reserve the right to come back based on additional knowledge and come back to you and present, hey, here's an amended budget, because one of the things that we may be able to do, and it's something that Delta Club's done in the past, we may have to have a repeater drive. You know, let's go out and talk to the membership and the community and say, hey, we need some help. We've got a problem with our repeater. This is what we're doing. Put a bucket on our free fest table, say repeater fund or donations to the repeater. And it's just a bucket. People stuff $5 bills in. I don't know. What I'd like to know, though, is can we get a sentiment of everyone on the board of how we want to present our position to the membership? That's what I would ask right at this moment.
I hate to be the only one talking, but I would say worst case scenario. And that being, if I were a dues paying member of Delta Club and you came to me and you asked me to vote on a budget of $3,000, but you knew all along it could be $15,000, I would be upset that you went over by so gross amount. Now, on the other hand, if you were completely ignorant of that, if you had no idea there was an issue with the repeater and you thought that it could only be $1,000, then no problem. I understand things happen. But the fact that we know that there is a potential problem here means that, and again, we're managing other people's money. So we're telling, we're trying to tell them that, hey, it could be $15,000. Now, at the end of the day, let's say we get this work done and we come back to them in 3 months and we say, hey, guess what? We thought it was going to be 15,000, but it was really only 3,500. That's a win for Delta Club.
Yep.
I agree.
So, John, So John, I understand you as that. So since I asked for a poll, I'm just going to take a minute and poll everybody. So Ryan, I'm going to just work down the list. So, because that's the easiest way I can keep everybody straight. So John gave us his opinion. Let's see, on my list, Ty, you're next. So I'm just going to ask you real quick what your opinion is, and then I'll just move down the list just to get everybody's opinion real quick.
Yeah, just quickly, that was kind of my thing that I brought up back in January, having had talked to some of our previous guys that worked on it, and then having some conversations with some of you. That was one of my main concerns. I did vote that way, or express that, I should say. And that's exactly why I feel like this was kind of under budget, like by a lot. So that's my concern. I do support these guys. I do want to, do the measurements, let them come back and let us refine this before we publish out a number. I think that's kind of a smart thing to do. Is there something more specific that you want me to say, kind of thumbs up or thumbs down?
Well, the question that we're asking is, do we present worst case or somewhere less than worst case, a more conservative, not extreme case?
Guys,
we've had.
Gotcha. Sorry. Yeah. So look, we're gonna have to at least I think we're gonna have to at least put $4 or $5 grand in there, because I just don't see any of this stuff. Just realistically, I don't see any of that stuff costing a lot less than that. It might be somewhat less, but that's okay. I'd rather take the number down and say, hey, we did a good job. Our guys figured out a different way to fix it, and it was less than we thought. That's a little bit easier to back down from that hill than to try to go up the hill. So my preference is to start with a little bit bigger number and then reduce it if we can.
Well, the bigger
Okay.
number then would be to put 15,500 forth and then reduce it from there. I think that's an absolute win, because then you get your heliacs replaced.
That's okay too.
You're in a pristine state, and then you can sell the membership that, hey, we shouldn't have, barring some godforsaken event, we shouldn't have any issues out of this repeater for a very long time.
All right. So we've got Ty, I've got John.
John, what about labor for putting it up? You haven't even addressed that.
Well, I don't know what the labor
Joe,
is. What's the labor for this?
So Joe, what would you like? Where would you like to land?
If it's 13,000, I would think another 5,000 at least for labor of climbing, and I don't know what the brackets would, what it takes brackets, or if it's just tie wraps or what.
Well, I do know that Matt could, once we take the measurements, Matt could probably draw us up an approximation, like a quote or something like that, because he does that for a living.
I understand.
Yeah, but hang on just a second. Hang on just a. I appreciate that we're trying to debate, but I'm trying to just do a quick poll. So bear with me for just a few minutes, John. I'm not trying to cut you off. I do apologize, but I just want to try to hear everybody's opinion real quick. Joe Lowenthal is wanting to go high as well. So Jim, since I'm kind of working down my list, Jim, I'm going to call you out and say, do you want to go high, low, medium?
I would prefer to go with what John proposed, with a higher number, but I also think that it should have a more accurate figure, so it should include the installation cost. So I think we need to be able to. I don't know how we're going to get that in time, but
I don't see it. I personally just, and I want to add this debate. I personally don't see any way that we're not going to have to revise the budget. We're going to have to revise the budget, but we have to propose something. So what I'm trying to get us towards and move us towards is, what do we want to propose? Right now, the consensus that I'm hearing is we want to go higher than high. So hang on, Jim.
And we
I'll
have
be right back.
In the past, we have presented this, we budgeted $1,000, and then we found that there was a problem with the antenna. So then we went to the membership meeting, and we proposed that 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 the club spend an additional amount to have, climbers go up there. And then when we had a repeater that failed and we needed to replace it with a new repeater from DX Engineering, we again went to the membership and said, hey, that we weren't expecting this, but we're going to have to buy
Right.
a repeater. It's going to be, nearly $2,000. And we got approval.
Right.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
so,
Perfect.
I think we can go either way, really. We can, say, look, we're expecting this, that we're going to spend at least 5,000 because we are going to need to, some climbers to go up and take a look at this. And we also have some added expenses that need to be made to, ensure that the equipment is protected.
Okay.
And that's where I was getting at when I was saying, do we need to shut any of these machines down based on on what I'm hearing? I haven't seen any numbers or anything, so I don't know what the actual condition is, and it sounds like nobody really does. But
And it may be premature to say that until we have data.
Right. So it shows. I think we still need to come back to, should these machines be on the air, and who makes that call? I know I'm kind of going off in the weeds here, but I wanted to make sure that we do consider that so that we don't end up with some fried equipment. But
Understood. All right. So
I do think we should go with a higher figure to present to the club.
Right.
And
Right.
even with the caveat that this may need to be revised up or down based on what is discovered during the discovery process that the repeater committee is doing.
All right. All right. I want to make this quick because I'm monopolizing and I want to get back to debate, but I just wanted to hear from everybody. Scott, do you have an opinion?
Scott?
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just detail quote, give me a scope of work. Let's get it done.
Okay. So you would say higher than low. All right. Mike Lumen, your thoughts? Higher, medium, low?
I think Mike had to step away. He had a family issue.
Okay. All right.
He might not be.
I do.
Let's come back to him.
Yep. And Matt, you want to chime in? High, medium, low? Couple thoughts.
I'm going to give you a number, but let me preface by saying the way that this should be generated for the budget as a matter of routine and procedure is to take the mean spending on the repeater annually and use that as the number. In perfect operating circumstances, that's really how we should do it, is take all of the spending that's been done in a given period of time, say 5 to 10 years, and figure that, that's the number. And that's not a criticism of you, Jim. That's just me contributing. Like, that's how I would do it, from project management. In terms of,
I take no offense to that because I'm not I'm not a professional when it comes to these numbers. So, and that's why I ask every year for input from the board.
All right.
As to what
it should definitely be an average. And as to the number, I say let's go 17, and if we end up below that, it's a win.
All right, so you're going high. All
Very
right, I
good.
want to ask one more thing. I want to ask one more thing of Joe Lowenthal, please. You put something in the chat about the club has equipment, and in that equipment there is certain things. Can you speak to that real quick? And does that have a material impact?
Not a significant one, but it's a Alpha Delta lightning arrestor.
Okay, so there is a part that we could put in play immediately, per the trustees and repeater committee's team to to get a lightning arrestor on at least one of the coax runs.
It's in the
pulling
equipment
something.
list, whether you want to take it out of the equipment that you've frozen or not. But I just wanted to offer that as a
Okay.
As an item.
All right.
Just
Thank
not
you,
to
Joe.
get back off topic, but I was going to offer up. I'm prepared to donate Morgan lightning arresters, and if it comes to it, I'm very seriously considering donating a repeater, but I don't want to get off on a tangent.
All right. Well, all that aside, thank you everyone for indulging me and letting me poll the board. That is helpful. So what I'd like to do now, and John Reiners, thank you for withdrawing that motion so we can kind of work this a little less formally and a little more informally. What I'd like to do now is let's give the floor to Jim fully and have Jim work the numbers based on our input so we can get something on paper. Because guys, we could be here a long time. Let's work through this and let's get a number on the paper, because we're going to have to republish this in Sparks. And we're going to have to put this out to the membership so that we can then stand all of us collectively. This is what's come to light.
Right.
This is what we know. This is what we discovered. This is why we're putting this budget. This is why we amended it. This is the defense of what we want you, the membership, to understand. To John Reiners, I'm sorry, John, I keep screwing your name up. That is to his point. We're spending their money. This is their money, not our money. It's the members' money. Here's why we want your money to be budgeted this way. All right, that's my thoughts. That's my piece. That's my go around the table conversation. I'm gonna yield and get out of the way, and hopefully we can get the budget put together.
Yeah.
And
Anybody else?
the next.
Yeah,
I'm
just
gonna
one
yield
thing
to
before
Jim, but I
it
didn't
slips
give mine.
my mind.
Perry
Yield to
did.
Jim.
Perry got skipped. Hang on. Perry got skipped.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
sorry,
yield
Perry.
to Jim. I'll yield to Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Perry. I thought I had called on you. My apologies. I did not intentionally skip you.
That's fine. I'll
Please
yield
tell-
to Jim.
No. Please let us know what you'd like. High, medium, low, and thoughts on that. I apologize. Totally.
Worst case scenario. I'll yield to Jim.
Worst case. Okay.
Fair. Thank you.
And just real quick, I think we should be doing a repeater drive every year anyway. Just before the thought slips my mind.
Agreed.
Well, as a member of the club, I would wonder, like, hey, if we have $38,000, why are you coming to me asking me for more money? Towards the repeater.
Well, some people have made that comment, but
So
it's
I'm
not.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. That
No, it's a good. It's very good.
Some people are going to look at that figure and say, "What's that money for? If it's not for taking care of the repeaters."
Well, yeah, that's exactly what a lot of people have been saying publicly, and it's like, okay, we're working on it. Like, just give us a chance to dig in.
Yeah, understood. Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying I've said that to people publicly. Like, yes, we know we need to dig in, but we had to get a team in here because this is a hard thing to do. If you're just trying to do this yourself, like, this situation needs a professional like Matt to help put some kid gloves on this and like help us figure it out, because it is a lot.
One thing I forgot that's important to point out that supports a high number. The repeater controller we're currently using on EAT2, the company's out of business, the software is not available, and it's no longer supported.
Yeah, that'll be part of the discussion, Matt. I mean, I expect, again, one of the things I do want to get, because we got some new members and stuff. One of the things that I ask is we want the committee to kind of help decide that, to get kind of cut down on some of the minutia of the club, and then come back to us with, hey, this is what we would like to do, but you also need to be like, hey, this is the bare minimum that we have to do, right? So the board has an actionable, up or down vote that they can kind of ask a few questions and come out with a result. That's going to make this flow a lot better. Cool.
All right. I apologize for throwing one more thing out there. Can we work on a couple of easy things real quick? Pointed question regarding the Huntsville trip. Is that $2,500 realistic? Do we need to increase that? Is that pretty set? Do we think that that's fair? Let's work on all of the easy things real quick, and then we'll circle back around to how we want to handle the repeaters.
All right, I have an opinion on that. I'm sorry. But,
Absolutely, that's what we're discussing.
Don't
But,
apologize, John. You're
last
part of
year
the-
we lost $500 on that. Well, actually, we didn't.
No.
We didn't lose money because we had a last-minute donation. Can we count on that donation to make up the difference? That's the question. So we take in money from, I guess we got to look at increasing the fare. And even if you increase it, I think it's a stellar deal because personally, my opinion is I don't have to drive and I don't have to spend gas money. I don't have to buy a ticket and I get a Danvers breakfast out of the deal. So I think it's a great deal. But you can approach this two different ways. Either you eliminate it, which eliminates roughly a $500 a year loss, or you can increase the fare and hope that you get enough fares to offset the difference.
Or
That's
what about
my
if we?
2 cents.
What about if we help? What if the club gets behind this and does a better job at really promoting it? Maybe we add something to it to make the value of it, the appeal of it go up, and therefore we can justify it.
Okay, I
Yeah.
totally understand, but I do not think you will find a better salesman for that trip than Joe Lowenthal. He sits there and makes announcements, and I don't mean just some nights, but every single night when we're trying to raise funds for that trip, he's like, hey, yeah, guess what? You want to rest your weary feet? Come back and sit on the bus in air-conditioned comfort. You get.
John, you went to mute. You hit the mute button, buddy.
I mean, you get a ton of stuff out of that deal, and Joe does an excellent job of marketing that. Could we? Well, I'm sure it's in Sparks too, so I'm not sure what medium you wish to go to market it better.
So
but it's a great
I'll tell you.
value.
I'll tell you. I think that all the stuff that Delta does is actually it's good stuff. I do. There's an obvious reason why I come to the club meetings, right? Like, hey, I think this is a good club. There's good stuff going on. You've got guys like Ham Hilliard and Pat Lane, and these are famous dudes that are famous in ham radio in Memphis, and we all know that.
Absolutely.
But check out what we have done, and I'm giving the credit to the entire team. We had 70 people at our last meeting. Why? Because we made drastic changes, and we've done good programs, so thank you. And we've had good guests presenting, and we've had good promotions online and social media. We've had a presence on the repeater like we've never had before. We're doing a lot of promotion. So I'm just saying, take something good. Kaizen is a constant improvement, and I believe that we can promote it better. You've got a fresh group of people here that are really excited about this stuff, and I think that should not be underestimated. So I think we can do that.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And how's the repeater operating so good when we have reports that it's not?
Look,
Well,
yeah,
can I ask you a real quick question about the bus trip?
That's a legitimate question. I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
I understand.
We're not
No,
arguing
it's
it's
fine.
legitimate. We'll have numbers and we'll come back. Go ahead.
On the bus trip, is there any kind of, I know the bus trip's a very social thing, but is there an opportunity for maybe 2 sessions of, hey, here's a 30-minute session on programming your HT, or here's a 30-minute session on how to look up and program repeaters from Repeater Book. Has that ever been done on the bus, or is that any? I haven't had the opportunity. There's always been a conflict for me, so I haven't had the opportunity. I'm gonna yet to
Okay.
ride the bus. I'm hoping to this
I'll
year.
be happy to answer that. In an official capacity, no. But I will tell you that the last bus trip that I was on, I had half a dozen people in the back of the bus, no pun intended, that were sitting there asking me how to get DroidStar working. So I'm sitting there firing up my app, comparing settings with them, and by the time we got to Huntsville, most of them had DroidStar actually working, which is DMR without
Nice.
a repeater, as you know. So in an unofficial or in an
D-Star?
official capacity, no. Oh no, it was DMR. We were on Talk Group 91 on Worldwide.
Oh, okay.
But in an official capacity, no. But in an unofficial capacity, there is so much value in the people that ride that bus that can impart to younger hams. I couldn't even place a value on that.
And as PIO, I can tell you the feedback I've gotten is that people want stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. I
Very
think we
much.
should promote the heck out of that because
Yeah.
we've never really mentioned, hey, tap into your Elmers for 3.5 hours. You got their undivided attention.
Exactly. We were
We have to
tapping.
promote it.
We didn't have a
Promote it in
choice.
advance, right? It
Dude,
has
like, I hear you on DroidStar. How are you getting that to work? And I can even name you names of people that were like blown away by that. So,
All right.
yes.
I want to reel us back. Let's focus on the budget. All right, Jim, you got it.
Yep.
Bring us home.
Go.
Get our budget done.
Okay, well, I think we should probably just go through this line by line and make sure that we have proper numbers input. Because like I've mentioned numerous times, I am not a numbers guy when it comes to this, and I seek the recommendation of other board members to solidify these numbers.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think that it's hard to try and account on
this
it,
is maddening trying to wrap my head around what we should be putting in these fields because we don't know what they're going to be. The only thing I can do is, we could take the numbers, the actual numbers from last year, plop them into the proposed, and then add, or subtract, a certain amount. But that's not accurate either. So,
yeah, so what you typically do is you know that things are increasing, prices are increasing because of inflation for sure. That's pretty topical nowadays. So you do add a little bit, 10, 15% on a lot of these things, but you don't, there's differences between things that are not really budgeted. So like donations are not a budget item. You can put that in a separate category, like, hey, you think this could be possible income, that's fine. But
right.
like
we
don't know.
We typically get, an added, $10 or $20 here or there with some, with a few, membership renewals. Some people, throw $746 our way so that we can have the bus trip.
It's kind of unpredictable though, right? I mean, that's where you would kind of do what Matt said and go back over the last 5 or 10 years or something and run an average and go, hey, the median is, this much. That'd be probably a little bit more helpful. But without that as a guideline, it's really hard to say with only looking at last year's number. And that was the point that I brought up last time, which was like, hey, if you've got a couple of years, like that's starting to become a trend. So like if you've got 2,500, maybe that's a little bit high, but then again, if you were off, like, and you knew that you were off by a certain amount, then like take that number and boost it by that amount and say, this is what we're proposing for this year. Those are costs. Costs and income are completely different, categories.
Yep.
Right? We know how much the Zoom is going to cost. We know how much, certain fixed costs are going to be. The website, those are fixed costs.
Agreed.
But yeah. And also I think we have a pretty good handle too on the donation for the meeting space, more or less, right? Like that's a pretty well-known thing. But
Right, so it's typically 300 that we donate to that we were donating to the church, but with having moved spaces, we had both that donation to the church and the donations to the seminary. So
gotcha.
so that's why I left it at the 300.
What's the
because it
training?
appears that- I'm sorry?
What's the training expense? I don't understand what that is.
Training? That's
Like for the board or?
no, that's for for the classes that Joe teaches. He has expenses
Manuals?
that, and didn't you have something else? You have to
It's
get-
it's not a
get-
big
get-
it's not a
get
big
the
expense.
printing
I wouldn't want to
expenses.
I wouldn't want to try to nitpick any of these things like that. But if there's any way that we could, try to offset the expense by having the people that do it, pay for whatever it is that they need to pay for. I don't know how that works exactly, but that might be helpful. I don't know if that's feasible or not. But that way they have skin in the game if they're coming to the class for free. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I think Joe does a tremendous job with training, and $50 a year, that's light to me. I mean, the fact that he's licensed over 680 technician class licensees over the course of his tenure, that would certainly eclipse anything that would have been brought in by the way of dues. So
Yeah, absolutely. That is awesome. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm just asking about the line item budget. Is there anything that could be? And I'm just using that one as an example. All right. We should have that same kind of questioning process for everything, not just that. I was just looking at that because I didn't understand what that one
no
was.
problem. I mean, it could be for notebook paper. For all I'm concerned, he provides an invaluable service to the Delta Club, and if you want to line itemed, I'm sure that would be fine. But
Yeah, that's not. I'm trying to say if there's a way to build that into whatever the fee is for the folks to, to take the exam, maybe there's some ways we could do that. I mean,
right.
I don't know. I'm just looking
And
for
I know he
creative ways of
struggles.
trying to offset that.
I know as being a participant in one of his classes that he tries every way to find the most cost-effective way to have somebody become a ham. And not only become a ham, but become a member of Delta Club. And I'm not joking about that. I'm not joking about that at all, because I remember when I became a ham, he promoted Delta Club tremendously.
Okay, that's good.
And
Yeah,
they
again,
develop
not really questioning that. So sorry, I don't want Joe to feel like I'm questioning that. That is not the way it's meant. It is not meant to be disrespectful at all or discredit anything. It's just using that one. I wasn't aware of
no,
that. That
I
makes sense.
understand. You were just wondering what that included. Yeah,
Right.
I totally understand.
What if we cut back on some of the door prize stuff? I mean, here's my only thing that I'll throw in here. I get it. People love it. They look forward to it. But I also happen to know, and this is again, it's not a personal knock, so please don't, I'm not trying to offend anybody here. I just seen some people were like absolutely thrilled beyond belief to get some of the stuff, especially the young hams who I think actually really do need it. That was the best. When I saw the old hams giving the prizes and stuff, I was like, wow, that was incredible. But I seen and I'll just say Rick because I like Rick Tillman and I talk to him a lot and I know he won't care. But he got a two-way radio. It was like a Baofeng or something, and he was like, "Yeah, great." So I don't know. I mean, there's not really you can't really rig that or fix it or anything like that, nor would you want to. But I think there may be some things that we could do. Maybe turn that into for the young hams or something like that. I don't know if that helps make it different. Maybe it could become a fund where some of us old timers, and I say that because I've been licensed for about 30 years. Um, Maybe some of us throw money into that fund to fund that instead of it coming off the budget. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I don't think that's perfect either, but maybe we change the way that some of those things work. I'm just trying to throw out some examples that might help
Well,
offset that, because that's
Okay,
500
well,
bones.
And again, I hate
so-
to keep bringing stuff up, but I actually asked a question in recent months. I call the Mid-South Barefooted Bullfrog Net every Wednesday night. And every Wednesday night, I have a question that's meant to spark conversation. And like, for
Mhm.
example, last week's question was, what's your favorite military aircraft? But one of
Nice.
the questions that I asked recently was, what would it take to get you to come to a organized club meeting? I didn't mention Delta Club specifically, but the overwhelming answer was more giveaways.
Wow. Yeah, I was there on
And
that
I get
net.
it.
And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, people I think didn't, I
I
don't know
know
that
I'm
they took it.
stupid with it, but I have fun with it.
No, it's cool. I love it. I love checking in when you're over there because it's always fun and you make it fun. You add a lot of energy and I love it. Um, I think the thing that I don't think a lot of those guys really treated it real serious. They just kind of like, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe we should poll. Hey, maybe we should poll the membership and ask them, what do you want to see in place of, this? But I don't think that anybody in the club, my point behind this, I don't think anybody in the club would sacrifice repeaters or the main repeater, let's say, um, for door prize. I mean, I don't think that they would want door prizes over the repeater working.
Right. What about refreshments? And I'm not trying to skip over things here, but if there's any way we could reduce the cost of refreshments, I mean, you're talking last year you spent $754.43. That works out if you're talking about 100 paying members, not 100 life members.
Yeah.
But 100 paying members, that means you're taking $750 off the top.
Right.
So you're really only getting $12.50 per member.
And just to add, to compound this, guys, we've only been talking about 2 of our 6 repeaters.
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
know going forward that we will, just be frank here. I don't know that we'll be able to afford maintaining all that going forward. I don't know. I'm not saying that we don't, but I think we should have a continued discussion about this. Let's try to come up with some reasonable numbers. My only big beef about this was mostly the repeater budget, because that kind of freaked me out when I saw $1,000 and I'm like, yeah, I think this number's gonna be really huge. And I'm kind of worried, like I think a lot of you guys are, about going to the club and going, hey guys, actually we're gonna need like 20 grand to fix this. Is that cool? Like, I don't know if that's
Well,
gonna be sticker shock. So we'll try hard to collect the numbers first.
and the
What if,
question becomes, do you want to be honest with the membership or not? I mean, if you think it's going to cost that, then you need to present that to them.
yes, we'll always be honest. We will
Yeah, we
always be
have to
honest.
be, plus, you're gonna have members that are gonna come to the next meeting and they'll have already viewed this. And so they're aware
Yes,
that
that's fine.
that we have
Good.
some serious numbers to look
Good.
at.
That's just what we want. We want people involved because that's going to help us. Because you know what? If anybody's watching this and listening, please find your favorite board person that you're buddies with or friends with or closest to, and give them some feedback. We do want the feedback. We want help and guidance, and more heads is better than just one. And I think that's the right way to do it. Now, in the interim, let's do this. Here's what I would say to you guys. Let's get all the other stuff in order, and then we can do a little mini emergency meeting and come back for just that one number after Matt has kind of put a pencil to this and after the repeater committee has done their checks over the weekend, because I think that will be an easy thing to amend quickly. We can have a 15-minute conversation and amend that one number and vote on that and the rest of this, and I think we'll be okay as best as we can.
Okay.
Would you guys agree with that for just the budget? And then we can fix the rest of it, talk about that and fix those numbers now. Come back. I don't know. They're going to work on Saturday. I mean, Sabat, so I don't know if anybody has any opposition, to maybe doing it on Sunday afternoon or something, have a quick conversation, or maybe Monday, because Matt's going to need time to do
Well,
some
we
thinking.
need to, it needs to be Sunday. Personally, it needs to be Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
I hate that, but because we need to get this so that it's ready to go into Sparks. This has got to
Right.
go into Sparks.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the process that we got to kind of follow. That process and isn't really optional to us.
And we're going to need help once that hits to drive home the point, Mr. PIO, that we really need everybody to pay special attention to the budget, and please come to the meeting on Tuesday, ready with any questions or concerns and ready to vote on the budget. And we need to make that, happen if possible.
Absolutely. It's already scheduled.
Thank you.
I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to carve out time from my schedule before the next general meeting next Tuesday. As it is, I'm joining this from my hotel room. I'm out of town, and I have a lot going on. So is there somebody that can run with this? Or is this, something that we could possibly
Perry, would you be willing to help?
Push to the next, the next club meeting? Say, we're still
Table it, you mean?
hammering out the budget. We're still waiting for, some measurements to
Okay.
be taken on the repeater and to come up with a final number. And then we won't need to amend anything.
Okay, what do you guys think about that then? What do you think about just kind of coming back to the membership and saying, look, we've got the membership, we've got the budget in Sparks, but we found out that there are some things that need to be accounted for on the repeater side that might be expenses, and we want to be completely transparent. And so we're going to ask to table this at the meeting until the April meeting. Is that correct? Is that what we're thinking? Maybe.
That's what I was alluding to.
It's already point of order is it's already tabled.
Yeah,
If
it is tabled.
You don't have to pick it back up off the table.
Well, we have voted on that we voted on that back in February. We voted to table it. So the vote took place.
To table it.
Mm-hmm.
To table it.
Right.
But so we have to pick it back up off the table.
Yep.
And then if we pick it back up off the table, that would be to approve it. And that could be a fine path. It just means that there's going to have to be an amended budget presented. The board has approved that budget if you go back to the February board meeting, the board approved that budget that was tabled to the general membership. The board approved that as a budget, as a proposed budget.
Mm-hmm.
The membership hasn't approved it because we withdrew it and put it on the table to the general membership.
Yeah, it wasn't ready.
So we would have to pick it up off the table and have the general membership approve that. If the board is, in my opinion, if the board's coming back and saying, hey, we're already in the mode of the budget that we approved back in February we see some problems with it, we're having to amend that, then we're going to have to come back and amend the budget anyway, because the board has said that's the budget back in February that we feel is our budget. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Total sense. Just keep in mind that the reason we're questioning this is because questions have been raised through a letter that there are problems with the repeater that none of us were knowledgeable of.
Yep.
At the time. Now that we have knowledge of this, we owe it to our membership to report the truth.
Yep, I agree. That's why I was so dogmatic about trying to get this in front of us.
So what we may, then that may be the best path is that, look, we've got, that may be the best path forward for all of us then to say, look, membership, we don't know. We've got some things that have come to light. We don't know what we don't know yet. We got to go sort it all out. And it could be really to dot. I'm going to say something and we'll just take it this way. To dot the I and cross the T of getting the I's and the T's dotted and crossed, we pick the budget up off the table and tell the membership, this is the proposed membership. We already know that we're going to have to come back to you with an amendment. We need to have an approved budget by the membership just to stay dotted and crossed. We're going to bring you an amended budget next month. Now, whether or not we do that or not, we can discuss. That's kind of where we are.
I think there should be
To
some
talk about.
discussion or given to the membership as to what it looks like, possibilities. And not
My
just say
input-
we're going to have to come back to them, give them insight into what we've been talking about tonight.
Absolutely.
My input going along with Joe is fully inform the membership, give them the proposed budget, and then go with their feedback. Let the membership essentially decide.
Well, we're not giving them anything to decide or vote on. We're just telling them that, hey, you know, this could be. This
I
could be
understand
more.
that. But what
Well,
I'm
we
We could
saying
ask
is
their opinion on whether they want us to spend that money or not.
We're trying
exactly.
to inform them. I mean, you know, we've established that an engineer from Motorola thinks that we should turn this repeater off in lieu of up to $13,000 worth of repairs. Granted, we want to get it retested. I think that's due diligence. But we just don't know at this point what we're going to spend this next year. And I think it's disingenuous to the club to tell them otherwise.
Yeah, that's why I was saying if we could just agree on a pretty good number on all this stuff, sans the repeater, and then come back to this on, you know, Sunday or Monday and get this thing, you know, that number updated to a more realistic number, I think we're on track.
Absolutely.
And what I was saying was not present them something to vote on, but use their feedback having been informed, as Joe Lowenthal is saying, and as I'm saying and John's saying, use their feedback as the rails by which to proceed.
Well, I just procedurally, there are some procedural things that will have to happen. More than likely, procedurally, and I would need to check this. If we would have to pick the budget at the membership meeting. We would have to pick the budget up off the table, and the membership, knowing what we've told them and what we've educated them with, they could say, no, we don't want to approve this budget. We reject it. We want you to come back with a better budget based on the information that you have determined or that you need to have determined of what you have found out about what's going on. And then what that happens is then we have a very well understood path of how procedurally the budget is and where the budget is, because we've got a rules in our bylaws that saying we've got to have our membership approve the budget. But if the membership rejects it, then we have to bring them another one. So I'm just looking there is a little bit of procedure that we have to kind of
in other
walk
words,
through as
in
well.
other words, it's not the end of the world if they vote against it. There's a process there. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And we can even say if you really wanted to do it that way, I mean, you could even go so far as to say we recommend that you vote against this until we get some better numbers in there. But I mean, it's the same effect, right? I mean, it's the same thing to just come to the meeting and say, hey, we're not ready. We had some unforeseen expenses with repeater repairs, and we would like to discuss that. Here's the repeater committee with a report. We show them the slide deck that you guys just saw. Maybe we add some commentary from Mike And Matt can give him maybe some details, some pointers, whatever, and then let Mike just present that and say, here's what we're facing. But again, that's just one number on the budget.
Right.
I wouldn't
But
even
we-
give them the recommendation. I would just give them the facts and let them decide.
But decide
So we
what?
say we're in a negative $2,000 $3,500 a year deficit, and we're facing, max of $15,500 worth of repeater expenses. This is what
Right.
we're asking you to vote on.
John,
It's-
you need to put in the labor to go up the tower.
I understand, but I'm rounding here.
Yeah, exactly. The point is kind of how do you want to say it? And just think, put your IT hat on for a minute. Like if you were going to service somebody's computer and we don't really know what it has on it, but you're sitting there thinking, oh, it could have viruses on it. It could have a broken, disk drive. It could have a, whatever. Like you're just guessing, right? And this is what we're doing right now. You don't know. You haven't even sat down to the computer to check it. It's just a user has told you, hey, this thing could be broken.
Yeah, my argument would be we have more than just a guess, though, in this instance.
Right.
We have a letter that states screenshots of an actual SWR by
Mhm.
somebody that I am assuming is trusted. So I get what you're saying. I get the analogy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this carries a little more weight.
Right. I get it. I was not trying to make light of that at all. I just want to, put the point out there that it has to be measured before you can know.
I think what
all
everyone's
right.
getting at is, when it's broken. You know when something's not right. You just don't. The car's not moving. What's the reason? But we know something's messed up, and let's assume the worst.
All right. Hey, Joe Lowenthal, how would you suggest we go forward and kind of resolve this with a table budget approval with the membership, and knowing we've got to come back to it? How would you pick it up and kind of deal with it and kind of dot the I and cross the T's and get it all kind of dotted and done?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at, say, $5,000 for the repeater upgrades, put that in and say it can go up another $15,000.
Okay.
And I don't think that's necessarily an unreasonable way to do it. You asked my opinion. I would go for worst case scenario, but if you have to establish a number right now, assume at least what was spent last year.
Well, I'll be honest. Here's what I'm trying to get to right here, right now. I'm trying to figure out how to get us to something either on paper or an action strategy that gets us out of this meeting and back to our lives with a workable plan that we can present to our membership. We've got a responsibility as a board procedurally. We've got some responsibilities that we have to address, and I'm trying to figure out how to procedurally address the things that we need to address and complete some of those things and not be here all night. I'm just kind of cutting to the chase with that.
Yep. Which is what I was trying to say earlier. Why can't you just bump up the numbers and, go with a 4. I mean, you've got $4,000 last year. Start out with at least a 5,500, number, and you just bump these numbers up a little bit, and then look and see where we're at. What are we talking about?
I do have one question, John and Joe and Perry. How do we want to show making up the gap? Are we going to show a number there that says, hey, we're going to dip into club savings for that? Because it's going to be a horribly balanced budget?
Great question. I don't understand fully how you would show that, but the whole thing is, if what I fall back on is that if you present a budget that says you're only spending $1,000 to the membership, and you knew all along that it was going to be more than that,
Yeah.
then I would be ticked as a member. Now, on the other hand, if you're ignorant, you didn't realize there was a problem, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So in answering that, and then again, Ty pointed out that he's hoping to get grants, he's hoping to get other things. Hopefully we can get estate sales back on record. I mean, think about the estate sales for a minute. Last year you budgeted 15, well, not you, but it was budgeted for $1,500. We made almost $6,000 on estate sales. Does it need refinement? Absolutely. You're not going to get my argument on that. Do
Right.
we need to get clarification on what we can and can't do? Sure. But last year we exceeded our repeater budget by quite a bit. We budgeted 1,000 and we went to like almost 4,000, maybe more. I don't have privy to the numbers now. But the only reason that we only lost $296, whatever it was, and change, was because of two things. We had a donation of over $700 for the Huntsville bus trip and estate sales. So, yes, we're presenting this. I think we owe it to the membership to present as accurate numbers as we are knowledgeable of. I mean, if we don't know what the numbers are, then we got an excuse. But if we know that there's going to be incurred expenses, then how can we justify going to the membership and saying that we're not going to have these expenses, and then we do?
Yeah, and of course it's obvious because we're talking about this openly in an open meeting that our members can review, that we're not trying to mislead anyone. The intent
Exactly.
is just to try and get a realistic number so that we don't have to, massively do something, come back with another 5 or 10 grand or something.
Yeah, my hope would be that if we ran all new heliacs, 900 feet worth, to the 700-foot level for the antenna, and that would alleviate any problems for the next, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking the next 10 years. I mean, barring a lightning strike, which is an act of God, that should shore up anything for the next 10 years. So we can sit there and say, okay, we're going to lose $15,000, $17,000 into what we have saved. But at the same time, over the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to recoup that because we're not going to have to spend anything on the repeater.
Now, we're focusing here on the 8.2 machine. Is there an issue with the 440 machine and its heliacs? If there is an issue there, is there a way to combine the two repeaters with one feed line?
No,
No.
they're two different bands, and that's not really how you do that. You typically.
I mean, it can absolutely be done, but you're getting into all sorts of
combiners
issues,
are expensive.
Right. So I'm asking for the purpose of, if we have to replace both, is there a third option for combining them? And is that a more economical method?
No.
Okay.
Because you're talking about tons of additional equipment there to manage, to prevent backfeeding. You're talking about additional equipment to prevent intermod between the two feed lines. No.
I just wanted to ask that question in case we're looking at two feed lines that are bad.
We don't know about the 440 machine. That's part of the problem. We don't know what the feed line is like there. The only numbers that I've seen were for 8.2. as to what John said, it can,
So
it can be
wasn't in your
longer than that.
Those numbers weren't in your letter regarding the, like a
I,
high.
I don't have them for the 440 machine.
Okay,
That's one of the reasons why we have to do test and evaluation, because we might have a problem. We know the 440 machine sounds like garbage.
There's some harmonics or something there.
Thank you for backing me up on your opinion with that, Jim, because I hate to put things bluntly. But we might have a problem there. You're absolutely right. Does that need to be considered? Potentially. As to what John's saying, though, that is the correct way to look at it as an investment. 100%, even as a club, that's the right way to look at it. The inch and 5/8 or inch and 7/8, I forget exactly what's there.
I think it's inch and 5/8, isn't it?
I think so. I'm not sure. It's inch and 5/8 or inch and 7/8. Okay. But it's legit. As far as I know, it's legit Andrew Heliax. You're talking about 25, 30 years potentially if it's cared for. But we also need to consider the fact that this is Memphis. We have weather. Lightning strikes are a reality. That is the tallest thing for a lot of miles. If we do it right, we make the investment. That's the right way to. But that's the right way to look at it. That's just my point. And I don't want to perpetuate the meeting going any longer. But just to no, he's absolutely right.
Okay. So can we? So what do you guys want to do? You want to I mean, you guys want to take and just talk about this issue at the meeting? I mean, it would be awesome if we get maybe John to talk about it, and then get, maybe if Joe Lowenthal could help back him up, and just kind of you guys talk about, this, so that the members realize that, hey, we're still working on numbers.
well, if we can also get,
Help out.
if we can get, the repeater committee or Mike Lumen to be able to, provide some input.
Yeah, we'll show the deck.
Share that information.
And we'll show that slide deck.
I'm certain that the club would appreciate seeing that.
Yeah, but they're going to need it's going to need a good presentation so that people, it has to get framed up.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that John's fired up about it, because I've been fired up too about this.
Put in 5,000 for the repeater, and put a footnote in that it could be 15,000 for Heliax, and or 20,000 for 15,000 for Heliax and climbing.
I second. With a footnote.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Let's do that.
All right. So we're putting it. I'm sorry. What was is it 5,000 or 5,500?
Repeat it, Jolo.
I said 5,000 and footnote for 15,000.
Off to the side there in column J. Pending repeater committee investigation, or something like that, possibly more.
I'd format it with an asterisk in the 5,000 and put the asterisk down below it, Jim, just so that it's not so wide, because we got to be cognizant of that it's going to get published. I'd put it on the right side, put an asterisk there, and then put an asterisk down under the actual total expenses, put an asterisk there with a footnote to say this could go up to 15.5 or whatever number Joe said. That's how I'd form it.
There.
So that puts the deficit as negative 6,073 by my computations for the year.
Like minus 12.
After this meeting, I'll format this properly.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
does
Oh,
indicate
okay.
an additional item here, so we're looking at what, 15.5? Is that what we were saying?
I thought we were saying
Which is
5,000.
I just said 15,000.
15,000, okay.
Yeah,
15,000. Okay.
Now we can say,
That's a negative $16,073.
Mhm.
That's going to dip
I'll-
into that
I'll work with
21,000. We
this
got quite a bit.
pending.
Well, remember, we still have to we have to get the repeater committee to go check it out. It still is pending our vote as a board whether or not to do it, right? Like we can go back to the membership later and go, hey, we figured this all out. We're afraid that we're going to spend too much of the money, for example, and we just want to see what you guys think,
Right.
right? And do it on a meeting where we have a little bit more time because we got this special guest coming on the next meeting and it's going to take like about
Absolutely.
45 minutes, right? And
Well,
that's the
I can
hard
ask
part.
him to reschedule if you'd like and come up with something else out of my butt.
Yeah. I want to hear about Adrenos. I really did. I
Oh
personally
no,
want to
he
hear
is
about
awesome. Let me tell you, man, that dude is amazing. Plus
Yeah.
his cats are cool too. If you're a cat lover, you're gonna love him.
That's funny.
Maine
Um,
Coon
Cracking-
cats.
That's
cracking me
right.
up.
National champion, man.
Oh my goodness.
Serious. Not
Okay.
joking.
Okay.
um,
That seems to be something that we can live with a whole lot more. And then we'll just kind of see what we'll still ask them what they think, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
we're going to need to do that anyhow. So it's a good idea to just say, hey guys, this is what we're looking at. We need you to think about this.
I would use the word potentially looking at. I wouldn't say that we're looking at this.
Uh-huh.
Pending additional
Yes.
test results.
Right.
Worst case scenario, we're looking at a budget of negative $16,073. Out of 21,000, that still leaves us with $5,000. So roughly.
Yep,
Look,
and
in
it's
summary, what everybody I think is saying in agreement is it's better to tell everybody brace from impact than did somebody get the license plate of that bus.
Absolutely. I would be so furious if somebody intentionally misled me. If they had knowledge ahead of time and then they intentionally misled me, I would be furious and I would never have a part to do with that organization ever again in my life.
yeah, but we're not. That's why we've put.
Right.
That's
I
why
know we're not.
That's why
I'm
we're
not
all
saying we
pumping.
are.
Yeah. We're pumping the brakes because of that exact reason. This is kind
Exactly.
of, this is what we were fearful of. Yeah, it's good that we're talking about this. It's the very best thing
Exactly.
that could happen. Even though it does stink, the situation stinks. It would have been better if it would have been spread out over years, but it's just probably not going to be the
Well,
case
going
anymore.
forward, maybe you can.
Yeah, we'll try. But
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
we've
I'm sure
got
there's
other
been years in the past that we didn't have these kinds of expenses. And that we
Well,
didn't spend the money.
the thing that bothers me, and this is the thing that I started looking at when I got elected and started looking at some of the stuff and having conversations, was holy cow, we've got 6 repeaters. How are we going to afford to pay for that? Because when I asked the question, I was told, oh, it doesn't cost us anything. We had a little discussion about that at the ham breakfast. And a bunch of the members were like, well, that's ridiculous. Just keep them there. They don't cost anything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. We need to check. Because I was asking members, what are you concerned about? What are you thinking about? And this is kind of what they were talking about.
all right.
So, yep. It's a
So,
good that we're on this. Thank you.
Do we have a consensus on the budget as kind of Jim's got it? Do we want to kind of move to approve that? Because I do want, we've got a couple of things that got to happen real quick. We got to hear from Perry because we need to approve our members, and we
Okay.
need to hear from
Yes.
so we can get that done, because we don't want to hold our members hostage by not getting them approved.
Right.
And then if we've got any minutes or notes that we need to approve, those are outstanding. And then I want to hear from Joe. I personally want to hear from Joe how the training program's going, because we haven't heard from him.
I
And
make
then John, you want to tell us about the program?
I make a motion, we approve the budget.
I second.
Thank you.
With the
Any
exception that it may go way over,
Absolutely.
depending on what we find out.
Right.
Absolutely.
Pending the repeater committee findings. Okay. All right. Any discussion further on that?
Yeah, I think it's important that we say that this is not because of Jim. I think I felt like at the last membership meeting, I don't know, there's just a tone of it that I felt like the reason for the delay was kind of expressed as we had to get in these numbers and things weren't clear and all. And I would like to see some support for Jim when we make that budget announcement, because I think he's done everything that he can possibly do. And this has no reflection on Jim at all. So I'd like for that to be part of it.
I agree.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
You're doing your best, Jim. We all know it.
Yeah, you are, buddy.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. That's why I bring this stuff up, man. I want to make sure we catch anything that we need to help fix. I don't want to leave you out there by yourself. I want to help.
No, I appreciate everybody's input into this, and that's what I was seeking was more input. So thank you guys for doing that this evening.
Right.
All right.
So there's a motion on the floor, properly seconded.
Yep. We're gonna vote for this. Everybody that's in favor of this, please.
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do not hear any opposed. The ayes have it.
Right.
Good job.
Thank
Okay.
you.
It was very tough, but it's good.
All right,
Very,
I will,
very good.
I will go ahead and neaten this up a little bit, and I'm not changing any numbers, but I will neaten up the format, and I will send that out to the board for like a final, hey, make sure it looks good, and then Mike can publish it in Sparks.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
John.
Let me take the screen share back. And let me throw this up.
I have a question. I have a concern. You got a quick
Go ahead.
minute?
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and resign my office as special events and director of such. I'll bring the refreshments, the coolers, and the wireless mic to the meeting next week, but I'm going to go ahead and resign my office effective immediately on the 5th of March. Just want to let you know that. So I appreciate it, and y'all have a good night.
Okay. I do accept your resignation. I'm sorry. If there's something I can do, please let me know. Thank you for your service, Scott. I always enjoyed the snacks. It was one of my favorite parts of the meeting. It is. So thank you for what you've done. Okay. Sorry, that was not expected. So all right, let's flip here. We saw Jim stuff. Perry, it's your turn, buddy.
Right, my eye, share the screen.
Yes, sir, you may. I'm gonna stop. Go ahead.
Right, we had one piece of correspondence this month that came from Carolyn Horn, who is a member in good standing of the club, former member of the board. The envelope was addressed to me personally, but when I opened it, it was addressed to the entire board, and I'll just have it here on the screen and we can go through with it. Dear Board of Directors, Delta Amateur Radio Club, my thanks to many of you for your years of hard work and dedication. You have succeeded in training and licensing hundreds of new hams in this area and now via Zoom beyond this region. I was able to join in on Zoom on your recent priority board meeting via an invitation that arrived via email. Later, I watched the complaint session that was posted on YouTube. What immediately came to mind was the life of Rehoboam, who became king after his father, King Solomon, died. I would like to quote a passage of scripture that pertains to him, and I believe the current state of affairs on the board. This is from the English Standard Version of the Bible, 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 6 through 14. And King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men who had stood before Solomon his father while he was yet alive, saying, how do you advise me to answer this people? And they said to him, if you will be a servant to this people today and serve them and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever. But he abandoned the counsel that the old man gave him and took counsel with the young men who had grown up with him and stood before him. And he said to them, what do you advise that we answer this people who have said to me, lighten the yoke that your father put on us? And the young men who had grown up with him said to him, thus shall you speak to this people who said to you, your father made our yoke heavy, but you lighten it for us. Thus shall you say to them, my little finger is thicker than your father's thighs. And now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So Jeroboam, all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king said, come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people harshly, and forsaking the counsel that the old men had given him, he spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men. After that, there was a rebellion in Judah. The kingdom was divided into the northern and southern kingdoms and remained so until the dispersion. What I saw at the priority board meeting was shocking. I saw an elderly board member whom others acknowledged as being in poor health, pummeled and pummeled and pummeled again. Then there were more issues discussed. Then the president and public information officer went back to pummel him again and again. It was sickening and gut-wrenching, and I couldn't sleep most of the night due to the trauma of witnessing that. For the next few days, I could not get this out of my mind and heart. It still weighs on me. In the complaints board meeting, one of the members said that the tone being established on the 2024 board is very divisive. I do fear that, like Rehoboam, the current leadership has not taken heed to the alarms and warning sirens blaring, but is headed into a divided kingdom. It is just a spiritual principle and is unavoidable unless there is repentance. If you listen, repent, and change your way, you will find forgiveness and a constructive path forward for this club. If not, then factions and splinterings are a byproduct of that decision, with the end result of fewer, not more, members. Be clear, I agree with the goals of increasing membership, upgrading software, and necessary tweaking of the machinery of the club's operations. However, the spirit in which this is being done is not right. Wisdom should be applied. Honor your elders and those who have gone before you, without whom there would be no club. Hear the word of the Lord. And it is signed sincerely, Carolyn Horn, PhD. And so that is in the record. And now, Jim talked about this briefly, but these were all the membership applications that we received to be considered for this meeting. There's some questions last month about who was the family and so forth. So hopefully this will help a little bit. I've changed the format of this a little bit just to make it a little bit more clear. The Alexanders were a family membership renewal, and the Datches were a family membership renewal. We had one new application who was Adam White. He's number 23 at the bottom. Everyone else is a renewal. And I would move, well, I guess, since this is my report, I would ask for a motion to accept their applications and to make them members of Delta Amateur Radio Club for 2024.
So
Oh
moved.
man, is my name on that list? Just kidding.
I would so move that.
All right, so thank you, Joe.
So you got motion and seconded. We got a second.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. Jim seconded it. And any discussion on this at all? Questions?
I take great offense to what was said about me. Very great offense. I didn't
that,
pummel anybody. No. I have a right to respond to that. I didn't pummel anyone. I offered Barry my help. I offered my help to the club. If it's not wanted, let me know.
well, that's fair, but that's one person's, one person feels that way. There may be others. What
That's
I would
fine, but it's
suggest.
now
That's just
also-
perception.
Hang on, hang on.
Whoa, guys.
That's how our
stop.
members are perceiving you, not necessarily what actually happened.
Okay.
Well, it's how one member's preceding me because I've been given feedback completely the opposite. If anyone took offense, I apologize, but I don't like being preached to, and I certainly don't like being attacked like that.
Well, one thing I want to point out is that the Delta Club is not a religious organization nor a political one. So, yeah, that's fine. Everybody has
This
their
part of the
individual
reason I also
rights.
think it's wholly inappropriate.
No, I get it. I understand that, and I'm listed in there too. I think so. Like I'm listening to you, and I would take positive or negative feedback from any member, the same way with the same respect. And we're going to. I did say this in many meetings. We will agree on a lot of things, but there might be things that we disagree on. That's totally okay. But in the end, I think we put our heads together and we can kind of see past our own individual perspective. That's the beauty of getting together. And, John mentioned something earlier, and I was like, hey, I didn't think about it like that. Joe Plunk mentions something and you broaden your horizons a little bit. Go, okay, I wasn't aware of that. There have certainly been things, and I thank the board members for coming forward to me and saying, hey, when you said this is the way it was perceived. And I went, oh crap, sorry, we need to fix this. Right. So sometimes it just takes extra work to say things differently. Sometimes people perceive things differently. We will get better at this. It's Kaizen. We will all get better. We're not all used to running a club or anything like that. We'll get better and we will talk. I think that's the thing that we have learned here today is that we've really got to spend some time talking to each other, hear each other out. I certainly need that. And I'm sure everybody else does too. And I think we actually did some great stuff here today just by talking it out. So kudos to the team. I think we're basically taking the gist of what was in that letter and actually applying it without having read it first. So that's actually interesting. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but I do tell anybody that's watching this as well as people here, if you do have some constructive criticism, please, bring that up in the right light. And if you can, it's fine to talk to the other board members, absolutely fine. I would wish that would at least come to the vice president or president so that we're aware if we need to course correct on anything. Can't see everything. Okay, yes, so it was motioned, it was seconded. There was no discussion that I heard about this. Is that correct? No discussion?
We're talking about the membership applications, correct?
The membership vote, yes.
Yeah. There's one thing I would like to mention, and it's kind of a feel-good thing, I guess, is that one of the members that came to me to renew their membership,
Mhm.
they paid it forward by giving me an extra $20 and asked me to use that to pay for the next person's membership that approached me. And so then maybe 10 minutes later, somebody approached me for, with their membership and their $20, and I told them to keep their money, that it had already been paid for.
Nice. Awesome.
That's all.
Yeah, we do have a lot of good people in the
I
club.
just wanted
I
to make everybody
I-
aware that some people are,
Yeah, I think
Good.
somebody did that for me a
That's
couple of years ago.
nice to
That's
hear.
awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Very positive.
All right, that's all I had. Sorry.
Okay. Cool. I like it. Good energy. Okay. All right. So no discussion on this other than that. All right, let's take a vote here. Everybody that's in favor of installing these new members, please indicate your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Indicate by saying no or nay. I don't hear any opposed, so that's unanimously accepted. Welcome new members and welcome back renewals. Thank you.
All right. Now,
Any other issues there,
I
Mr.
had
Secretary?
I had one question. I did get an email asking to put the letter to Barry into the club records, and in the email it was said it was sent by the executive team, and I think I sent you an email just asking who the
Okay.
executive team is. I'm not sure I got a response on
Well,
that.
executive team is president, vice president.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know how to put it into the records. All right, and I was just going to wrap up my comments by saying there's actually 68 people at the meeting last month. So
Nice.
that is I guess if I'm the official arbiter of that, that's the official number. So that's all that I had. Yes, sir.
Harry, Mary Jean came in late, so 69.
Woohoo! That should
All right.
be celebrated.
I stand corrected. All right, wonderful.
She
Wait, I'm
told
sorry.
me that,
I might have
That's
missed something
that's
there.
phenomenal.
hey guys,
Technically 71 because we had two people who couldn't get in the door. It was
Yeah, that-
locked. He was at the door.
right. I had somebody contact me
Yeah.
after the fact and say that. It's the guy that's at the Taekwondo studio in Bartlett here.
They weren't at the meeting, so
Well-
therefore it cannot be counted.
Well,
69, 71, both are phenomenal numbers, but 61 is what signed in and on the log. I
Yeah.
think that's a phenomenal number either way.
yeah, I agree. And the main point is that this was possible because we were working together to, make good programs, promote the heck out of this, and it's going really well. So thank you, team.
Just wait to see how many you get when Glenn Popeil comes in to talk about Arduino.
Yeah, that'll be interesting too.
Yeah,
Mary
we should
Jean
probably
said
start pushing that out there.
Yeah, Mary Jean said that she had to park in the overflow parking, which I think is the other spot, which was kind of funny.
And John, if you can send me the details about his program or basic outline so I can start promoting that, that would be great.
Mhm.
Roger, Roger.
There you go. Good work, team. Good job. Okay, Mr. Perry, is that it for you?
That's all I've got. Thank you, guys.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. All right, John,
Thank
you're
you, Perry.
up. John,
Yeah,
it's your
yeah,
slide
I'm,
deck.
I-
Do you
I'm
want
up.
me to present the slide? Here we go. Let me share.
If you want, it's cut and
It's
dry.
pretty straightforward, but yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know Glenn Popeil, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. KW5GP, he's a member of the Olive Branch Club,
Mhm.
and the man has forgotten more about Arduino than I will ever know. And I feel confident in saying that. I have an Arduino. I'm looking at it right now here on my desk. The dude is unbelievable with it. And he has come up with multiple books published by the ARRL about uses for those within the ham radio context. And now I cannot promise that he won't talk about his cats during the presentation. He's very proud of his cats. and won like a national championship back in 1989 or something. So I mean, the dude loves his cats. But he gives a very entertaining presentation. He will be our presenter for the next membership meeting, and his credentials are just unbelievable. I mean, he typically gives forums at Huntsville Hamfest and whatnot, and so he was gracious enough to agree to come, and looking forward to his presentation. And
Excellent.
that's all I got.
Okey-doke. Any questions for Barry? Or excuse me, for John Miners. I'm sorry. I was looking at the other screen over here. Okay, hearing none. Joe, you're up next with training, sir. Floor's yours.
We had Tech Class 224 has had 2 classes, been quite active, 15 students, and we've got 4 more classes to go. And I gave the Biono battery to Rick Tillman.
Okay.
And that's for Free Fest, so that's part of the drawing. Just to be clear.
Right. Good point.
That's it.
Okie doke. Any questions for Joe? Okay. Scott's not here. I don't know if he had any other items. He just said that he was gonna hand over his stuff on the next meeting. So can we get somebody to help with this issue? I don't know where we can put this stuff. I'm not familiar with what was going on in the past and what's the best way to handle the equipment issue.
If I heard him correctly, he specifically said he was going to leave a microphone
Right.
and refreshments, but was resigning. If I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me.
That's what I heard. I heard he was going to bring the refreshments and I think multiple coolers and the wireless mic. That's what I heard to
Okay.
the meeting. I don't think he was planning on doing anything other than just delivering them.
Yeah.
Based on his resignation.
Kind of sad, but it is what it is.
Right. Well, that's right. All right. Unfortunate. I'm sorry. That happened, but we'll try to follow up with him and see what he wants to do there. Who would be kind of closest to talk to Scott and help me out on this? Because I don't want to have a situation where we, don't communicate well, or, whoever's closest to him can talk to him and maybe ask a little bit better question about who, what he wants to do there. Any of you guys help on that one?
I
Don't
thought from
think
what he
we
said,
should-
he was going to bring everything there, and that was it. And somebody else can pick it up.
Okay. Do we have a storage facility or anything for that?
No, he kept everything at his house since the church was not available after the storm.
Okay. All right. All right. May talk about some of this offline then. All right. Next, Matt, you're up with public info.
First and foremost, let me apologize. I am an Irishman with an Irish temper, and I have had multiple deaths in the last week and just came back from the funeral, so I apologize if I'm not in the best state of mind. So basically, one of the things we did 2 things, which was we started an account on Twitter. I've since closed that because it was not getting traction, and we were also having some of the issues that Twitter inherently currently has with inappropriate material being attached to our posts.
Oh no.
So it was better just to remove that. What
Okay.
we have done though is we've drastically increased our presence on Facebook and the promotions of it on the air. We're doing at least 1 post a day. Again, I was at a funeral in Canada this past weekend, so slipped there. Apologize for that. We have had highly positive feedback about the increased content and the reminders for meetings. From people who were at the last meeting, they were crediting the Facebook posts and the promotions on the air as being partly responsible for them coming out and feeling like things were getting more active. We did get at least one new member who said that they were coming to join on Facebook that said, you know what, I've seen the posts. It's about, I think it's time I finally join. So that's good. We just need to continue to cooperate with the other members of the board so that I receive the news about the training and what programs are being given. Like I just asked John, and KW5GP is going to be an exciting one. I think we'll get a lot of people with that.
Right.
Just continue to keep me up to date so I can keep the membership and prospective members up to date. The members just want to continue to see the board meetings posted. They also like being able to view the programs after.
Right.
President Emeritus Mary Jean has continued to help with what time she has. Very busy woman. She's got a lot on her plate. Very much appreciate her. There's no real specific team, anything right now. We're just going to continue to try for one post a day. We're going to continue to focus on promoting DARC's strengths and assets to help achieve membership growth.
Right.
What that looks like is continuing to promote the repeaters when we do work, get that information out there, show the members in photos as much as possible without showing other sensitive equipment. What we're doing, the reminders are pre-scheduled for the meetings. Facebook has that functionality. So they're going out days and the day of, the days before and day of the meeting. We're doing frequent reminders about the nets, that it's a great way to become radioactive. That's something, the terminology Ty has started to use, that a lot of people started throwing back at me and using towards me. So I'm turning that around and I'm starting to use that as much as possible.
Energy.
I did get feedback, though, that there were actually two people who decided to attend the meeting because of the reminders on Facebook, who were not able to get in the door. Right. If they arrived late, I don't know. I don't know about that. I apologize. I don't have that complete information. But their feedback was that they really wanted to come and they wish somebody had been there. I think by then the program may have started. Everybody may have been inside, but just something for the board to consider, that they're people who are showing up late, which is people are sometimes late.
Somebody was on the door until 7:15.
Yeah, I think they came after that, and if they were, I don't know for sure, but I'm just reporting the feedback I got. So
is there a way to put like a sign up that, like, hey, if you come to this door after X time, dial this phone number and somebody will come open it? Could we do something like that? Is that a feasible, reasonable thing?
You know what I thought?
Or call us on the radio.
Call us on the radio. That's what I honestly thought.
Because real hams have radios, doggone it.
But I'm just presenting that. That was just feedback.
We'll say call us on Memphis Metro.
I think we can get a little sign and a phone number, and we can tack it to the door and pull it off when the meeting's done.
Other than that, the feedback has been super positive. People are very happy with the increased presence online. It's 2024. A lot of people spend a lot of time online. A lot of their lives are online. It's the main way of communicating with distant family these days, sharing pictures of loved ones and so on and so forth. So they're on Facebook. They're on social media anyway. They like the heads up about the various de-expeditions and news. Got a lot of positive feedback about the solar flare incident that gave us an HF blackout for a little bit. And of course, unfortunately, the sad news, we did put up posts about Bob Heil. May he rest in peace. It's a great loss to the community. Thank you, John. I was in O'Hare Airport. I actually knew when he passed. I was told by somebody else, but I was asked not to put it up until a public post was made. So thank you, John, for alerting me to that, because I'd literally just gotten off the plane. I hadn't had time to check. So I'm grateful, and we got that out immediately after that was noticed. It's a great loss for amateur radio and for the engineering community. So we are staying current with news, and we are keeping the membership properly informed through this alternative route, in addition to the traditional routes of smarts and everything else.
And thank you to Joe Lowenthal for making the announcement on the net that night as well.
Yes, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Joe Plunk was away, and I was out of the country, so thank you.
Any
And
questions?
I appreciate all the, I've commented about the improvement, not just in the quantity of Facebook posts, but in the quality as well. I mean, I read these every night, and you're doing a phenomenal job. But in citing the nightly net numbers, that's on a repeater that, again, you agree that we shouldn't even have in service right now. So I'm hoping that we can move that net to an alternate repeater like we've done in times past.
Well, let's
I
just
agree.
find out what happens on the weekend,
Okay, fair enough.
please.
I
If you
agree,
guys
but
don't mind.
It's also still a very positive thing to say that, hey, we are growing regardless. And the fact is, regardless of what repeater we have it on, people are going to show up.
Absolutely. You get no argument from me on that, bud.
And again, I apologize. I do have an Irish temper, and I have not gotten a lot of sleep.
Hey, I don't have an
lost quite a
Irish
few people
temper.
this
I'm
week.
on call and haven't gotten a lot of sleep, so forgive me.
Yeah, let's see if we can move this on, guys, for that exact
Yeah,
reason.
sorry.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? Anything he brought up? All right, Mike's not here. Do we know if anybody has talked to Mike about anything that he had?
The only thing I'll mention.
Wait. Here I am, guys. I was getting ready to check out.
No. I'm sorry, Mike Harrison. He's
I'm
the.
sorry.
No,
I've
you're
got to
good.
check out, guys.
That's fine.
The only thing I'll mention, Ty, is Sparks' deadline is obviously this weekend. Mike certainly appreciates it if we can get him his stuff sooner than later.
Right.
I personally am going to try to sit down and write my articles and clarifications in the next day or two and get it to him early so that he's not up against the wire. So I know that he would appreciate that.
Okay. All righty. Mike, you already gave your basically showed his slide deck. Mary Jean's not here. Do you know if anybody talked to her about any issues?
Last I talked to her, she didn't mention anything.
Yeah, I talked to her too, and she didn't mention anything. I had some issue. We already talked through all this because a lot of these things were already on the finance thing. I do want to mention, Joe, that we got to get the Ham Club Online back on your thing. I think we jointly decided we would do that. And that was voted on and kind of approved, right? To kind of put that out there and do that. So we need to do that. We don't have time to do or energy to do a presentation now, but I would like to propose that we come back to that. Maybe we can do a special meeting, or we could do it at the next board meeting, whatever's appropriate. I don't even think we need to make that decision right now. At
Fair
some
enough.
point, right? I don't have energy.
And John Reiners, if you want to look at it, just holler at me and I'll walk you through what I can show you.
Yep. And
all righty.
I did send a response to my email to Jim about, the docs and stuff, and that's kind of an ongoing thing, which is fine. it was centered around, again, what we brought up earlier. So I'm not going to rehash that. It was just the concern that, had we filed our taxes, had we filed the required state of Tennessee reports and stuff like that, he says that's in process. And I will ask him, just want to get a copy of that. Joe Plunk and I will help him set up a folder with the proper permissions and start getting all that stuff, centralized and documented. That was my concern there. Repeater committee, we do have the access and documentation. I think that the new action item is going to be that we do need Barry McDonald to make sure that the trustee status gets switched over, right, to KQ4 FMB to Mike. And I know that that's going to be a modification. I think he has to hand off, he has to do some paperwork there. And then Mike will have to go in, and it's actually an online thing. I apologize. It's an online thing that they're able to do together. So those guys just need to talk, log in with their FRNs, and that should happen like pretty much immediately.
And I have zero problem with that. I know for a fact that Barry has been trying to remember the login to that, and he specifically mentioned something called CORS. It's some third-party authentication system that they use. Bear in mind, he's elderly, not in the best of health, and he is not uncooperative. He wants this over as quick as anybody else.
Okay.
So I just want to reiterate that any threats of legal action or letters or anything else is not helping in the situation. He is honestly trying, in my belief, the best that he can to turn that over.
Okay, so far I've gotten the access email. I believe that went to the entire board that pointed out, what the codes were and what the keys and all the different people to contact. So that's appreciated. Like Mike brought up earlier, Mike Lumen, the fact that, he did keep the stuff going, so that's appreciated too. And that was the main thing, just getting all the stuff back. I think there's equipment. We probably just need to get somebody
I talked to him on the phone one day. He was actually packaging all the stuff up. He just wants to know, does he leave it out by the sidewalk for you to come and get, or what's the protocol here?
That's a good question, because what do you guys normally do when somebody's handing stuff over to another trustee or to another board member that comes on?
I don't know that we've ever had a trustee resign under duress like this, but
well,
it is
that's not what I asked.
Okay.
Specifically
okay. What I'm saying is we're in uncharted territory here.
No. What I'm asking is when there has been a change of the guard, right? What happens? Do we put it in club storage? Do we have something like that where we can, a neutral spot where we can do that?
I probably don't know. I've honestly not been a part of this before. I would assume, based on times past, I don't know who the repeater trustee was before Barry, but he had. I know we use terms like committee. He had a committee. It might not have been named a committee, but it was Rick Tillman. It was Rick Canshat. He had guys that worked with him. So I don't know exactly who was the actual trustee prior to him. But it's always been like a peaceful transition. We've not really gone off into this area where of the unknown for lack of a better explanation.
Yeah, I got you. I wasn't trying to rehash that. I was just trying to ask a question of if there was guidance there on do we have a storage spot? Do we not have a storage spot? Where should this, if it's equipment, my guess would be that it should be in the cabinet at the repeater site. Would you concur with that?
I've never seen the repeater site, so I don't know what space is available there.
Right, we have a whole room and a cabinet and everything, like a
So,
big office
you
cabinet
know,
where you put paper and stuff in.
yeah. If you want to reach out to me, I will be happy to relay any message to him whatsoever regarding that. I can't guarantee he'll comply, but I will give it my best effort in the interest of saving legal fees or anything else.
Okay, thanks. I'll take you up on that. Thank you,
John,
Jim.
we need a copy of the controller software because it's no longer available. It's EOL and the company's gone.
Okay. I don't
All
know.
right.
That's the CAT 250.
I thought we had 225, 250 either way.
Yeah.
The company is gone.
Yeah.
And archive.org, I tried to pull up the page. It's gone.
Okay.
The software's EOL, and I don't know anybody who has the setup files because commercially I don't use controllers that like ham radio like that.
Okay. Fair point.
Yeah, like I said, I'll be happy to reach out to him. I mean, he is not standoffish at all, in my opinion. Again, that's perception. Different people have different perceptions.
Right.
But I feel confident that I can get a lot of that from him.
Awesome.
You know,
Very much
and
appreciated.
after all, it would save us budget money, which we sorely need.
Okay, if you don't mind, then I'm very appreciative of that. I will put you down. If it's repeater stuff, let's just tentatively say that we need to bring that to the club meeting, I think, and then hand that off to either Matt Ryan or to Mike, and let's get that stuff, either in
Yeah.
inventory on a list and then out to the repeater site if possible.
Okay.
It should
And
go
I'm
think
not
it should go to-
arguing, but given that it's a club asset, wouldn't it be better to give it to our treasurer? Because those are positive assets on our books, I would believe.
Well, the treasurer doesn't necessarily have to hold it, but yeah,
Okay.
the treasurer needs to be
Okay.
aware of it for sure. And that's part of
Absolutely.
Mike Lumen didn't get a chance to talk about that in a lot of detail, but he did have it on his to-do list to inventory everything. And that
Right.
that should live in a GDoc, and absolutely you want your treasurer and secretary to know and see that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, good call. Okay, that's it from my end. I think we're finished, guys. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I had one more comment, if that's all
Oh,
right.
sure, go ahead.
I'm Zoom challenged. I tried to get in before Matt did his presentation and I hit the wrong button.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say it was my feeling that Scott was going to be helpful and he was going to, make sure we got all of his stuff back. So I just don't feel like we need to send him a letter or FedEx package or anything. I think we can trust him to bring our stuff back. So I would
Okay.
say, please, let's not do that to Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I got the impression that he just was looking to resign and that it wasn't going to be an adversarial type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Okay. Good deal. All right. Again, thanks to Scott for his service and all those delicious snacks. Appreciate that very much. Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Yes. Heard a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second for that, please, sir? Sirs.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Jim.
seconded by Jim. All right. Everybody who's in agreement with that, say aye.
Hey, it's a
Aye.
record-long board meeting. Woohoo!
Yes.
I
Record.
vote for it. I got to get back to my R finder.
The ayes have it. There's no no's, I know. So it's adjourned at 10:45 p.m. I think this is the longest board meeting I think I've ever been to. So, but it was good. We were productive. So thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, good night.